Hello and welcome to the Just Another Castle podcast. I'm your host Matt, and with me this week is our pro gamer Mike.
Steamed hams, baby.
And our retro aficionado Unoclay.
That isn't smoke, it's steam. Steam from the steamed clams we're having.
I thought you said we were having steamed clams. Yes. These are burgers.
At this time of day, in this attitude.
Localized entirely in your kitchen. Yeah.
And the fact that these steamed hams are grilled.
Oh my God.
Well done, guys. We memed the shit up over here. I finally know what a meme is. Finally.
Finally, you're a meme kind of guy.
You're growing up.
Very proud of you.
You're growing up. Oh, great start.
That's how the internet works, Clay. You know, one day you think you're an educated human being, the next day you're watching memes on the internet with your friends.
Good old meme. I love them.
Don't worry, fellas. Clay is married, has a house, and loves Nintendo. And guess what, guys? He enjoys his memes.
I love a good meme and a GIF. I love the GIF.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, that is my pet peeve. That GIF. There's literally a thing called Jiffy Lube with JIF, and people still say that. It's just like, come on, man. Come on, we need an English podcast, all right?
We do for next time.
All
But
right,
for
cool.
now, let's start off with our game of all time tournament. Actually, before we move on, I just want to say Eli and I will be at EGLX this weekend on Saturday. It is in Toronto. Well, they say Toronto.
Canada, bros.
They say Toronto. It's technically Mississauga, but regardless, it's up in the cold place up here. And yeah, we'll be up there on Saturday. There's a bunch of games and conventions, and well, I mean, it's a convention. Whatever. There's stuff happening. We'll be around.
Congrats, bro.
If for some reason you're in that area, come meet us because that'd be cool and make me happy. Eli is probably going to be there Sunday too, I think, because he's flying in. I don't know if I will be. Maybe I will show up on Sunday because I forgot if I actually booked that off or if I just got it off. But whatever, we'll see.
Matt,
What?
if you're trying to figure out which one Matt is, he'll be the one guy without a switch there.
Yeah. And we'll
Not
be like,
walking
hold on,
around
man.
with
This
a
line's
switch.
really long. Let me pull out my Switch. And Matt's going to be like, that's dangerous, man. You know?
It is. Can't trust people.
But that's awesome, dude. I know EGLX is like Canada's biggest game convention. I think Destructoid is actually hosting EGLX, so that's pretty cool, man. Freaking have fun, dude.
Yeah, well. We'll be
Is
cool.
it your first I know you went to a VidCon kind of thing, like a YouTube con. Is this your first big game con you're going to?
Yeah, from what I can see, it looks like it's gonna be ginormous.
Yeah, I know. I know of EGLX, and I'm like.
Well, yeah, 'cause
you
there's
only
been
hear about
ads
the big
on,
ones. It's on the
everything.
level. It's no games con, but it's one of those you're like, all right, if you live in basically North America, you know of EGLX, you know of PAX, and you know of Comic Con kind of things, you know.
Yeah.
I
Plus, I don't know
really
about
wish
you,
I
but
could
I've
make
seen
it up.
ads on everything.
Oh, sorry. I really wish I could make it up. It's not
Oh,
looking
that's
good
fine.
for me. I still had it on the radar, but it's given the 8-hour drive from Philadelphia, and my wife would like the car that weekend because she has to work, and our public transit is really slow on the weekend, so she had to get up. Not only she has to work the weekend, she has to get up super early to go to work on the weekend after working all week on top of it. It's pretty bad. Let me give you some relationship tip, guys. When the wife says, you want to drive to Canada so you can meet some dudes you talk about Nintendo on a podcast with, and make me have to work all week, get up early, and go to work all day, come home, walk the dogs, make my own food, you should not do the Seymour Skinner and say, why, yes.
Aurora Borealis in your kitchen at this time of day.
I'm going to
Totally
Canada. That's right.
understandable. Yeah.
Can I come? No.
That would be the right answer for her, but unfortunately, she did point that out the other day, and I was like, "Ooh, didn't think of that little factor." So
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
yo,
no
when you
worries.
come to E3, ditch your at a beach, and then all of us can hang
yeah,
out.
That truly is like our strategy in life. Like she loves the beach, like I love rock concerts. So a lot of times we're doing trade-offs like that. If I go to like all these rock concerts, she's like, and like that earned you like 4 days on the beach where I'm like home watching the dogs, taking care of everything around here, and you can like go chill on a lawn chair and read your book all day. And then I'm like, have fun. See you later. Get on the train. Go to the beach. It's great. Yeah,
I like it. It's fair. See, that's how marriage is, guys. It's not about love. It's about trade-offs. All right,
Yeah,
come on,
give
guys.
him the beach and go to the rock concert.
Fair, 100% fair.
All right. What about our
good
game
stuff. So,
competition,
yeah,
Matt? Because I
let's
know
start
Mike's
off-
dying to hear about it.
Let's start off with our game tournament. So this week we have Cave Story versus Super Mario Galaxy 2. I'm not actually sure who voted in for what, so
I'll tell you one
why
thing.
don't they
This
well, I
human
know I know who didn't vote in Galaxy 2.
I wonder. Oh, maybe only long-time listeners would know that one.
Yeah.
Matt.
So
Mike's all-time least favorite game is arguably Galaxy 2 for those that haven't been listening since episode 0. So
Yeah, it's pretty long. A very long time ago. All right. I was a young lad with knee surgery, very excited for this game. And you know what happened?
hey man,
Miyamoto touched it.
hey man,
Alright.
my Wii broke and I bought it for Pikmin 3, Galaxy 2, and Skyward Sword. Guess how that turned out?
Gosh, man.
One of them didn't even make
the
it on the game.
trifecta.
Yeah.
Oh, man. You know, we're like losing listeners every second. People tune in, they're like, Nintendo podcast. I'd love to hear what they have to say. And then they tune in, and here you go, like trashing every major series in one sentence. You're just like,
people's like favorite game or like a lot of favorite series, top tier Nintendo series comes on the Nintendo podcast. Like, man, Nintendo really was garbage that year.
I was pointing out, Mike, I don't know if you saw it in the chat that we keep going during the week, but I went back, and this is completely spontaneous, but I went back and looked. I was just doing a quick copy
I think I know
paste
what
of
this
like
is.
every blog I ever put on my IGN before they turn it off. And my very first, no joke, dude, my very first blog of all time is Galaxy 2 and me talking about how great it is. I'm not even joking.
That's hilarious. You're very not even a hello. My name is Clay. Welcome blog. Like you just talk about Galaxy 2. Like
No, it's literally the first blog I ever
Oh
did.
my
It's like
God.
I'm just like, here's a quick review of a great game.
oh, poor Clay. It was before you became a more educated fellow and got
No, I
accepted
still
into
love
the
that
podcast.
game, bro. Like you're alone on that, man. Galaxy 2 is killer. I'm not even gonna. I'm not even gonna
Oh.
put it in the tournament. I'm just gonna say that I didn't put it in
Alright.
the tournament.
Well, I know
Okay.
Eli put it. I know Eli put it because it was one of
Okay.
his favorite
'Cause I was
games. I
gonna-
remember we talked about it like a long time ago, and then we had like that. We did like a speed run race back in the day, and then he gave up halfway when I was up like 30 stars on him.
Okay, I think I remember hearing that.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I was
amazing.
gonna say
It was for
Cave Story was
extra
either-
life. It was for charity. It was for charity.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was gonna say Cave Story was either Unoclay or Eli, but I wasn't sure which. And I was gonna
Cave
say
Story was all.
Okay.
Cave
Yeah,
Story.
that's definitely a Clay game. But the thing is, what makes Cave Story good is it's retro and new. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And accessible. So
Well,
Yeah.
so I guess
So-
this is weird, yeah, because we don't have Eli here to defend his game in the lawyerly style that we
So-
normally do.
I'll do the. I'll take. I won't like take Eli's side necessarily. I'll go after you. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
well, the
Um,
fairest thing to do is to automatically won it. But then that would mean the same thing anyway. It's the same as 0-0. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, one Eli for Mario Galaxy 2,
Nope, he's
and
not
one
here.
Eli. Yeah,
The rule is
we
you're not-
established
we
those
established
rules.
those
You know.
rules.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
got-
That's why I was like, I don't even mind if I missed this podcast. Right? I was like, I don't give a shit about either game.
Oh my
Alright?
God.
But you know what? But I actually do care because you know why? Anything to lowbrow Galaxy 2 is.
Oh my god.
You know what? No, maybe we should
good
count
thing.
Eli's vote.
He actually
You guys knew what you were getting into. All right, you guys knew.
He actually texted me a minute ago saying he's trying to get internet back. So the longer we
He's
Oh my
desperate,
God.
alright? It's too, it doesn't
He's
matter,
gonna
man.
pop
I mean,
in.
we're on a time limit here, right? I gotta go
Alright,
be somewhere.
so-
Like, all of a sudden,
Yeah,
let's
so
do this.
So let's go on with Unoclay with Cave Story. Let's start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Cave Story. It's an amazing game. Nowadays, like retro platformers are a dime a dozen. It's become a very trendy format for Switch and every other platform, and that's a good thing for those of us that grew up on platformers. You know, we want more of these games. Now there's almost a glut of them, but Cave Story is one of the first ones that I can think of that kicked off the retro 8-bit like revolution, and it really took it to another level. It's got modern elements, especially the way the gun physics work. It's a difficult game, especially if you try to 100% it, which I tried desperately to do and could not. So it's got meat on its bones. It's got a great story. It's got memorable characters, and you know I almost never say that. Cave Story is a modern legend made by one person. I admire it all the more for that.
Nice. That was perfect timing.
Nice, dude.
Nice job.
29.99. All right, man.
Great. And yeah, Matt,
right,
you're gonna try and defend
yeah.
Galaxy 2 against that onslaught.
Well,
Yeah,
wait, let me go.
Hold on,
We don't even know who
hold
I'm
on,
voting
hold on.
for. Because, Matt, you're the decider like usual. We can't let you go second, Aaron. Because, then it would be no pressure on you.
I see what he's saying. You're the decider again, Matt.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you don't want me to be
we'll
the
go with-
decider here,
we'll
all right?
go with Mike. Yeah, I guess
That would
wouldn't
assume
make sense.
that I just would say
So-
that would assume I'm voting for my own game, and I haven't even said that actually. Just to point it out.
Oh my gosh.
I
You
was
should have ended
presenting-
with that.
I was presenting the case for Cave Story.
Oh
I
my
haven't
gosh.
decided how I'm voting yet.
You-
Honestly.
That is
Still
fair.
haven't-
That's
are you-
fair. I
Are you
mean,
only
that's
gonna
fair.
decide after so you can find out if you
Well,
want
the
to
thing
piss
is,
off Mike?
this is a hard game for Clay because it's a game he voted and a game he likes. You know what I mean? So they're both
Well,
games he likes.
That's
Like,
the
you gotta
problem
think about
I
it in that
found-
aspect.
That's a problem I found out with some of these. It's like, okay, some of these are clearly better than the ones I voted in that they're going against. But I think I'll probably just go with mine anyway, just to make it more interesting and stick with it.
Why don't
But
why don't we hear Mike's case like in 30
Sure.
seconds of what way he's voting, and then we can figure out what we do next from there.
Sure,
'Cause I think we know what Mike's
All right. Mike, get ready to go. Oh
He's just gonna
Stop the
laugh for
maniacal
30
laughing.
seconds.
3, 2, 1, go.
Well, Cave Story is actually a game it's funny. Cave Story is the very first game people told me to get for my 3DS, and that was back in 2011 when the 3DS came out. I never really thought much about it. Keeps getting re-released, keeps getting better, and I only ever heard good things. I have never heard one bad thing about it. Galaxy 2, it ain't no Galaxy 1, bro. I don't even need full 30 seconds to tell you that. I don't need no DLC half game ripoff. All right. Just trash, man. All right? You guys want a good game? Just play Cave Story. Or guess what? The first paper, freaking Galaxy 1. Peace out, boys. Cave Story Plus all day.
All right, there you
Oh
go.
my god. Oh brother. Oh
Yeah.
Matt.
All right.
Matt.
Don't even need to use it, a brain molecule for that vote. All right?
So,
Matt,
Unoclay, have
what
you
do you-
decided on your vote, or
I am like torn. I honestly don't know like what to do here. Like I
Conflict. My favorite.
okay, like I'll say I will set a few seconds and then I will decide at the end of it. And I still don't know which way I'm voting. I can say this: if you give me like right now, you say which one do you want to play? I want to play Cave Story. Like more. It's got more replay value to it to me, but that is partly because Galaxy 2 is not in full HD, and whenever I try to go back and revisit it now, it just looks so edgy. It's got so many it just looks like so many edges. It doesn't render up well, like even if you have good cables and stuff, that I have a little bit of trouble going to play it now. If we were talking like an HD version, like right this second,
But we're not.
We're not. No, I got to do the right thing here, and although I adore Cave Story and voted in all the way to the bottom of my heart, I got to vote Galaxy 2. It's the bigger.
Wow, the guy goes against his own game. Is that the
It's
first so
bigger
far of the
game.
tournament?
it
It's
is?
the better game. It's the better game. Like
All
I
right.
gotta vote.
All right,
against the game
that's
I love.
fair.
Okay,
See, I respect that. I respect that. You find the game better and you vote for even over the game that you wanted in. You know what I mean? Like that's
agree.
that's commendable. All right,
I
so
gotta do it. I gotta do it. It's Galaxy 2 for me.
All right. Well, I'll start mine in 3, 2, 1. So, Cave Story, you're kind of dropped into this world and you don't really know what's going on. You kind of have to pick up the pieces from all the characters that's going around in terms of story. And the interesting thing about the game is that your guns level up, and how it works is if you take damage, you'll actually lose experience, which is pretty interesting. I've actually never played Cave Story. I just thought I'd look it up and see what it's like to get some perspective so I don't sound like a douche again. The only... Super Mario Galaxy 2 isn't necessarily a bad game. It's only bad in terms of it's a disappointment compared to the original because it's so linear, but on its own, it's not so terrible. And if you took Galaxy 1 out of the perspective, it would probably be a decent game. So I'm going to go with Galaxy 2.
Galaxy 2 Advances.
What? Are you guys serious? Matt, how dare you? How dare you?
Oh my god!
I might leave even earlier. Okay?
Unoclay, you had me on edge. I'm like, no, don't go Cave Story. I want to see how far this can go.
How dare you? How dare you vote for Galaxy 2?
I don't
What's
agree
wrong
with what you were
you?
saying. Like, I find it weird that you guys see Galaxy 2. I mean, Mike, we know, you're kind of an outlier with all respect, but Matt, that you see it that way, like that you don't think, I almost think it's better than Galaxy 1. Like it's just
way.
weird to hear.
My Galaxy, okay, first off, Galaxy 2, the only thing good about it is Brawl in the Family comic, okay? That's the only thing good about it. And Matt can back me up there, all right?
No, I
But
heard you talking about it before.
Oh, you were? Yeah, dude, I love
remember you
Brawl.
talking about it. I remember you talking about it.
Oh,
for
okay,
sure,
yeah,
for
with
sure.
with Patrick Star and no Rosaline, like, well, Galaxy 1 had, I mean, it's already over, obviously, the vote, but I'm saying, what Galaxy 1 has, though, is not only did it bring and usher the new design in, it was actually a pretty good complex story behind it. All the levels, like, granted, the Manta Ray level sucks, you know what I mean? But Galaxy 2 uses a Super Monkey Ball ripoff. The best level is the throwback level, which isn't 100% perfect, and the secret world is not that fun. Like, I really like what Galaxy 1 did. They're like, all right, you can play as Luigi, and you get the bonus, like, basically Mushroom Kingdom with the fireworks as their special. Galaxy 2 special, I didn't really like. I didn't like how I like the idea of Rosalina. I mean, they added a huge new character who I hate Rosalina in every other game, but I really did like the premise of that game. It was like, it felt like, I don't know, like, what's the word? Like, I can't think of it right now, but it was like you were as you discovered the spaceship more and you learned more about the story, you're like, oh shit, there's more to it. Like, yeah, Mario game doesn't really have story, granted that, but that was the first Mario game that like legitimately had something going. Like, I don't count Sunshine because it's just a meme. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, Bowser in his in his bathtub and Bowser Jr. But it's like that game, like, it just felt like something was going on, and I think that's pretty cool. But
no, I hear you. It's a we don't agree here. I wanted to present that case just to say it out loud because listeners might be like, what the hell is wrong with these guys? Like, hating on Galaxy 2. It's like a 10 out of 10 game to a lot of people, even if we don't agree. So,
yeah, they're all right. It's not a 10. All right, it is a good game, but it's not a 10.
Wow.
Just like
the only one that's a
Sword,
10 is Galaxy 1, dude. Like, if this was an add-on, like if they even said, "Oh, this is an add-on," like I would give it an 8.5. Like,
Gotcha.
That's still a good game. 8.5 is still really good.
I can see that argument. That it doesn't innovate much, so it's like an expansion pack in a way.
Yeah, but then and they sold it for full, and they didn't add anything. They took away, in my opinion. Like, yeah, they added Yoshi, but it's like, eh.
This is funny because I think to a game, every single game I put in the tournament lost, and right here I had a chance to keep one of my games in the tournament.
Yeah,
and I'm
you willingly gave it up.
Yeah, I know, right, Clay? Clay, why did you continue your over streak? Right?
I can't. Hey, you got to vote the right way. You got to vote your heart. This one, it's I really, honest to God, like Cave Story is one of the games I would replay. I've replayed it like 3 or 4 times now. And I'm
excited to play it, to be honest. Like, I'm more ashamed that I haven't played it. You know what I mean? Like, it's literally turned into one of those, like, wow, I'm ashamed. But then when I found out, like, it was coming to the Switch with more stuff, I was like, well, I'm really glad I kept waiting. You know what I mean?
The fact that you liked Celeste and things like that, you're going to, like, just eat it up.
Dude, that's all I heard. Like, dude, when the 3DS came out, like, my boy's like, yo, you got to get this game, Cave Story. Like, I'm talking about, like, when there's only the blue 3DS, you know what I mean? And, like, shit like that. Like, that's what people were talking about. I was like, yeah, Cave Story. I was like, well, there's no Mario game, so I'm not getting it yet. And then, like, it just turned into, like, 3DS just had so many games, and I just didn't have time. You know what I mean? I was like, I kind of forgot kind of thing. And then it turned into, I don't want to get it for the 3DS anymore. They made it better on this, or they made it better over there. You know what I mean?
All right, I think we'll have to move on to the next topic because I'm sure we could talk about this
Cave
over.
story forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. GG, boys. GG on that one.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we'll talk about what we've been playing. And as the demo king, I have played some
Demo
demos.
King!
Demo King at it again?
Yeah. So I had some time, and the Kirby demo released. So I guess we'll talk about that because that's a bit shorter. It's fine. It's not really anything special, to be honest. It's
Is
just
it like
it's like
the
Kirby
recent
with
one?
multiplayer, basically. It's just
Yeah,
like
okay,
you
but-
have. Sorry, go on.
No. Did you play? What was the last Kirby you played?
Robobot.
Robobot. Okay. Did you play any of the console ones before Robobot?
Yeah. I've played,
Okay.
like,
Return to
most of them.
Dream. Yeah, Return to Dreamland. Is it? I thought it looked more similar to that, but they're trying to make it Kirby 64 style with combinations again.
Yeah, so
So
it's kind of like the canceled Kirby or GameCube Kirby game, where you could eat an enemy and then have that enemy join your party or your team, and they would, run alongside you and fight with you. So they have that mechanic, and then, like you said, combining powers, which doesn't really do anything, to be honest.
Oh, that's disappointing, dude. I really
Yeah,
thought
like
it was like, I'm
this-
like, oh, finally, the 64 sequel we all wanted. You know what I mean? And it's like that. See, that's the one thing. Like 64, like it was before this game comes out. It was the only game with combination powers. But at the same time, I also feel like it was the most interactive Kirby like ever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it
I
was-
like you wanted to save the world. Like you actually teamed up with King Dedede. Like you team up with that Waddle Dee who got super famous off it. And then like it had when you fight O2, like it had this awesome story. And I was like, yo, finally. And then when you said the GameCube game that was coming out, dude, I remember reading that Nintendo Power. Like, damn, shout outs for that little tidbit right there, man. I'm surprised you pulled that one up, man.
Yeah.
I can't
the first
underestimate a
thing I
guy with
remembered.
a Ninja Kirby
Yeah.
icon, alright?
You
Can't
don't
underestimate the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was easily the first thing I noticed in that
What-
trailer. But
I haven't played it or watched any of the trailers. Could you give like a summary of what what's the basic like conceit of this Kirby game? Is it
so
what's the mechanic? Whatever. What kind of Kirby game is it?
the hook of this is, besides being like a regular Kirby platformer, is that you can eat enemies and then, well, actually you don't have to eat them, but you can throw a heart at an enemy and they'll like follow you and join your team, up to 3 of the enemies total. And what they can do is either one, combine powers with you or the other teammates. So they can add like a fire ability to your sword, and you have a fire sword, and you can, burn ropes and things like that. Or what the heck else was it? Or, like you can actually play multiplayer versus just playing it by yourself. Because you can have other people join in as the other enemies. And there's some other combine abilities, like one of them is called a friend train. You basically just mow everything down, and Kirby has like the top part of the train on his head for some reason.
It sounded sexy before you explained that. I was like, well, what is it?
You're like, nice,
It's
a
not
Kirby
the-
orgy.
it's-
Finally,
yeah,
a Kirby game
it's
I
not
want.
it's not the friend
the
bus
Kirby train.
Unoclay, it's the friend train. There's a difference.
But there was Return to Dreamland. And there was one other Kirby game, right? But that was on console before the Wii U weird one. Or am I getting it mixed up? There was only Return to Dreamland. I feel like there was one more, but I just feel like I'm crazy at the same time too. But the big thing about it is like, I mean, I'm excited. Like, I honestly really like Kirby games.
Mhm.
Like, I think what Planet Robobot did really well was they added so much extra game content. You're like, oh my god, like I want to get everything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and that's what all Kirby games have done. Like, I've never ran into a Kirby game where I'm like, damn, dude, like. I'm just playing and this game's too easy. It sucks, unless we're counting Epic Trash, but that doesn't count as a game. Yeah, man, freaking! It looks hype. I like the idea of multiplayer. Oh, that Return to Dreamland did have multiplayer. It had when you could pick Meta Knight as second player, or like Waddle Dee, or you could pick whoever you wanted. And
Yeah,
Meta Knight
I
was
saw
super.
that after in a trailer.
Yeah.
I think someone brought it up. I'm like, oh man, I don't remember that. One, probably because I didn't play multiplayer with people. And
I played it with my
came
brother,
out
that's why.
like a decade ago, like a decade ago, because
Yeah,
2011, so long enough that it feels like a decade.
Yeah, that's long enough to forget stuff. But like that was the thing. Like I was like, all right, well, I mean, now you could like, because Meta Knight, remember, you're always forced to play sword, and with Waddle Dee, you were forced to be a spear. But I like the idea you could play like you could jump around and switch your like fire enemy elements and all that, because I don't think if the multiplayer should have like those different colored Kirby's kind of thing. Like I don't think that's always a viable option. So
Yeah, no, I don't think it would.
So
work great.
hey, I'm excited for it,
Yeah,
man. Like I mean, I like Kirby. So and we're getting first party stuff. You never turn down first party Nintendo stuff. That's my motto.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm definitely still getting it because I think they're just fun games in general, and they always have like several extra modes anyway. So I mean, it's not just like, oh well, I beat the main thing, there's nothing left. Like there's always collectibles and like at least 3 or 4 other modes. So that's always cool.
Yeah.
And the powers are like a lot of the reason to play, and the new powers look pretty cool. So
Oh, dude, yeah, new powers, man. They have like a Nest.
Yeah.
The Yo-Yo's back, and it's like he looks like he's Nest or something like that. Like I know that was in. A lot of people didn't play Planet Robobot, so there was Dr. Mario in that game. So.
Yeah, they got like a spider. Shoot, what was the other one? I'm gonna hate myself. I forget. There's a spider.
It's okay.
There's another one, and there's a festival one, which is like a screen clearing move, and then they have like a stick one, which is based off of like Odyssey to the West or whatever that is, where like Goku as well, who has like a
Oh, the spear, and it
the stick
it
thing that,
elongates. Yeah.
elongates and slaps people. Like that's so
awesome.
cool. That'll be cool.
You know what, dude? Freaking, is this in the news? Because HAL Laboratories made an iPhone app. Are you gonna talk about that or no? It's not Nintendo related though.
Well, it kind of is. It's I forget what it's called. UFO something.
Oh, part-time worker. UFO part-time
okay,
worker.
Yeah, I haven't played it. It looks pretty cool though. Funny thing about the Kirby game, it comes out.
It's not an app. It's a game.
Yeah.
He said an app. I didn't know. I was thinking like, what does it do? Okay, cool. I want to look it up. I love HAL Laboratory. They have like amazing games back in the day, like all the way up. Even though they are a little bit Kirby centric. What's it called again?
UFO part-time worker. It stars the UFO like that's in Kirby games. Like they use that sprite and all that. Some people like, I mean, the Destructo was talking about it. They said it's kind of addictive and all that. And like a lot of the comments were. A lot of the comments were like pretty user friendly. Like you know what I mean? I was like, wow. Like sometimes like I don't expect apps to get like user friendly reviews, from like actual gamers on a website. But they're like, oh well. Like some people said it was like the first game they've ever spent like money on in an app, and I was like, that's good. I'm glad HAL Laboratories like did their own thing. Like they're only a second party, right, with Nintendo and all that. Like they're not. Like, Nintendo doesn't make any money off that app. So heck, man.
Yeah, it looks neat. I'm looking at pictures. The art style looks a lot like what do you call it? What game am I thinking of? It's on DS, and then they've ported it. It's got Rhythm Heaven. It looks like Rhythm Heaven style graphics.
Yeah, that's like that clean. Like it's not 32-bit, but it's like not 64-bit, but it's like clean.
Yeah.
Like I know.
It looks really neat. Interesting, cool.
I'll probably never. I'll probably download and play it, then I'll probably never get like into it. Like I always do that. Like I always gotta try out something that's like from a company I like. I'm like, I'll try it. Like when Mario Kart comes out, I'll be all over that for 3 days.
For 3 seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting tidbit: Kirby Star Allies comes out the day I finish, the day I quit my job. So maybe it'll be home later that night, and it'll be a good send off.
One day beat, baby. All right.
Or maybe I'll
don't
just
waste
bitch
your
on Twitter
valuable
because
money
they
on a
won't
Kirby
tell me.
game. Don't waste your money on a Kirby game. See, I gotta be a hater there. They're like,
what? No.
I want them to be fun, but they're so easy. It's so boring. I'm like,
no, but okay, but they come with now mission modes and stuff. They come with like a lot of stuff, dude. It's not like like you're just playing. Like Matt said, Kirby games, like they are easy, but I think the best part about Kirby games is how much content they add to the game. And that's like my favorite part about it. I'll be like collecting everything, or be it like a mission mode. Like, dude, the mission mode in Return to Dreamland is not easy. Like it is not easy. I remember my brother, like, he's a huge Kirby fan, my younger brother in the family, and he's just like, yeah, dude, I keep doing this like one mission over and over again. And I was like, all right, like I'll give you some props, Kirby. And Kirby 64 is considered one of the hardest games to 100%. So
that I have on my shelf here that someone gave me a copy of. I've never put it in yet. It's like
Crystal Shard.
Oh,
yeah.
you know why it's the hardest to 100%? Because that one block puzzle.
Dude, yes. When
It's
you have
that
to use
one
the green and the
puzzle.
brown power to make you like the Kirby land animals, and it's super impossible to get up
Yeah.
there because you have to
Yeah,
like
you
it's
miss
RNG
one
who you
block
become
and you're
to.
like, oh, damn it, I gotta do it again.
Yeah, but the thing about that game too is you actually have to use your brain. Like they give you a lot of hints, but like it doesn't help at all. Sometimes you'll be like, okay, well clearly I'm supposed to do this, and then it's just like,
No.
were you though?
Yeah, because there's a lot of, you can combine like a lot of powers in that game, so it's like you got to figure out which ones out of like 60 something combinations or whatever.
Is it a 3D environment? Like
No, it's 2.5D, 2.5D. So
Okay.
you walk in a 2D plane, but it has 3D aspects. So you could like it'll curve into the game, etc. Stuff like that. It's not that long. It's 6 worlds and I think five levels with 1 boss each. So, but there's
I'll
3 shards in every level. So
I'll report back one of these days when I have time for some baby games. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, and
touche.
I did play one
Matt?
game, one other
What
demo
else?
I wanted to bring up, Near Automata.
Ooh,
And,
I played that demo. I'm with you.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it, and I've seen it, and I'm like, this looks like a pretty cool game I want to try. And I think it is a pretty cool game. I really don't understand it though, because from the demo it sounds like I'm starting at the end of the game. Like you're all like, it seems like post-apocalyptic, fine, you know, you can do that at the beginning, that doesn't matter. But it's weird because it's like 2B and 9S are the 2 characters. So 2B, like 9S meets 2B and they don't know each other. But then even though they like just met,
They're androids, damn it.
well, yeah, just like even though they just met, like 10 minutes later in the demo, it feels like they know each other somehow, even though time hasn't passed, and it's like, oh, we're gonna sacrifice each other or whatever. And at the end, like they're in this thing and press this button and everything blows up. I'm like, wait, is this the end of the game? What the heck happened? What did I miss? There was no time lapse. I don't get it. What's going on?
Man, it's a demo, man. Most, I've come to realize demos will give you like end of the game powers in the middle of the game, though. You know what I mean?
I know, but I mean this. Like, I think I've heard the story is weird, and I know there's like a ton of different endings, but it's like I could not follow it because it didn't make any sense.
But did you like the
But-
gameplay?
I thought it was pretty cool.
Okay.
The one thing I was surprised was like it's an action game, so I got that, but it has like bullet hell shooter mixes in it. Like the perspective will change to like a top-down view, and your robot companion can shoot like the other robot's bullets and like kind of defend you in that way. And then it'll go back to like a regular third person's perspective, and you can use it there. But I was like, oh, that's neat. I didn't expect that, so I do want to play it at some point.
That's
in
a
the future,
PS4
but-
game.
Yeah, it's PS4. The demo's even called something weird too. It's like demo version.
Oh man, it's
like
as bad as Square Enix Kingdom Hearts games. It's got like 15 different numbers in it for no
numbers
reason.
and letters and like
It
gamma.
seems like it starts off as like a date, like 2017 this day, but then it just adds like a bunch of random numbers. Let me look it
Yeah.
up.
Hey, but the thing is, I'm not gonna lie. The demo. I mean, the demo did get me kind of hooked into it too. I was like, wow, this game's sick. You know?
Yeah. So yeah, the demo 120161128. Like I look at it and I can see 2016, like 2016 November 28th.
That is when
But
it came
this-
out. It did come out November 28th, 16. I
Okay,
can't
so that
confirm.
makes sense. So they just
It's
put a one
the only
in front
true
of it.
thing about it.
Okay, so it wasn't just random.
Yeah. The rest of it is garbage. But
But I think I'll end it there for me. I think I've talked long enough. Mike,
Cool.
what have you been playing?
Alrighty. Well, I finally hit Masters and Grandmasters in Overwatch, and that is why I have a
Nice.
job interview
Nice.
in an hour. So
Oh wow.
yeah, dude. It's for Tempo Storm, a professional esports team. But yeah, like
Really?
what happened?
I said, really? I'm just impressed. I'm just
Yeah,
expressing like that's
thanks,
what you're
man,
going
thanks.
to do in an
Yes.
hour. You get off the phone here. Like, oh man.
Yeah, what do you
Wow.
call it? So essentially, what happens is, the best way. I mean, I talk about Overwatch all the time, but I never really talk about it. But the way there's ranks, you know what I mean, for each mode. And what each mode's got a certain amount of people in it, and you have to win a certain amount of games to level up. Like like most games where it's like, oh, we got past level 1, and then you become guild rank number this or some shit like that. So it goes from bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, grandmaster. Grandmaster is like where all the pros. Like if you still haven't heard about Overwatch League, you might have. It's super huge on Twitch. They have a personal deal. But I play against like pros now because I'm in GM, which is grandmaster. But essentially, that's 1% of the entire game population. About 78% is in that silver, gold, platinum. 8% in the lowest one, and then like 10% in the diamond one, and then like 3% in masters. So it's like I'm like, oh wow, I'm legit. You know what I mean? Like yeah, like I'm a very high rank, which is like really cool and all. Like I'm nowhere near like a pro level if I'm gonna be honest. Like I watch them play, like I'm like they're just a bit faster, but like now I'm playing with them, so it's like hopefully I can get better. But yeah. So that's mainly what I've been playing. But Dragon Ball Z, been trying to still get back into it. Problem with DBZ again online, and it's not disconnections. It's just people getting away with murder, and it's legit not fun. I'm just like, gosh damn it, man! Like I sign on, I was like, it killed my mood one day. I was like, guys, I'm in the mood to play some DBZ. Freaking sign on, body this kid, quits out right before the game ends because I do a level 3 super, and I'm like, come on, dude, no punishment for the guy. I don't get my wins, and I'm like, I don't want to play a game that I can't go up anymore because you could just quit and you don't get penalized for it. So
Yeah, that sucks.
freaking trash. But yeah, other than that, my boy bought Secret of Mana, so I'm gonna be playing that next. And I'm a bit further in Xenoblade Dose. I'm doing some fetch quest stuff, so it's not the funnest of times, but fetch life, good life, fetch life. That's it. I'm excited for Kirby and I'm excited for Cave Story. And I keep telling my boy to buy. He keeps asking me, he's like, "Yo, I want to get Celeste for Switch." I'm like, "Nah, dude, you never played Shovel Knight. You have to get Shovel Knight, especially for the Switch." All right? I was like, "Yeah, I will not allow him to get Celeste." I was like, "Nah, dude, if you're gonna get any indie game, you're gonna get Shovel Knight because they are they're the best indie company, man. You can never go wrong with free DLC. Isn't the last one coming out real soon? So
yeah, sometime this year. I think in the spring.
Okay. Yeah. See, dude, like that's close, dude. Like, and I'm like every mode is fun. Like Spectre Knight, I thought like they wouldn't top it. Like I'm kind of excited to play it. I think it's Golden King Knight or something like that.
Yeah.
King Knight.
So it's gonna be dope.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Even though
My-
this is
My system is never updated. There's a glitch with my 3DS. Like it's not updating. Like I don't know how to solve it. I've given
Really?
up, so I don't get to play it. Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with it. Like whatever the last content was that was supposed to come out. The last time I checked, there was nothing there, and it's just like.
Wait. Like you go to like sign on the internet and it just will not let you update. That's strange, man. That's
It's
very
like there's no choice to update. It's like the game. I don't know. There's something wrong. I don't want to get into it.
Maybe-
It pissed me off.
I forget if you can do this on the 3DS. You can delete the game without deleting the save, correct?
That is
No.
true. You can
So
delete the
maybe
game.
delete the game and re-download it.
Maybe. Yeah. If I
That's the only
think
thing
of it
I
one of
can
these
think
days.
of.
Because
long
Nintendo
as
has
you
two
don't
different
touch the
files
save.
for it. They have the game file. Because you know why? I deleted Donkey Kong Country once, and then I came back and I had all my stuff, and I was like, okay, not bad. It's just Donkey Kong had like Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, way better than the original. I have to say.
I see.
Is what do you call it? It's different blocks for the save. You'll see it in the game data and then save data. So. And then
Right,
it'll also
right.
tell you. Sometimes some games might be tied together. It'll be like, oh, this will also delete your this, that, and this. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Hey, Mike,
Well, that's cool.
One thing
Re-
before moving
really
on
excited
to
for you, man.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
crazy. That's
Thanks,
crazy.
man.
Completely that you're going out for that. Like, what's the like? Do you just play online? You don't have to appear at tournaments. Right
no.
at the beginning?
So yeah, it's mostly online the way that this game works. But like the professionals, they all play in California in they called Blizzard Arena and stuff. It's on Wednesday through Saturdays. If you're like, I'm usually on it. Like if you're like ever randomly on Twitch or something like that, it's always on the front page because they're also partnered with Twitch. So
Nice.
it's pretty cool. Like I mean, you could that way. It's the best way to check out what the game is like. Et cetera, et cetera. So.
All right.
Yeah, good luck, man. Hope you get it.
Yeah,
Good
man, it'd be dope. It'd be dope, and freaking that'll help us out here too, man. It will. Like, and then I get start like streaming this because like what Temple Storm is supposed to do. Like, Temple Storm is a huge esports affiliate, so like, like I would get sponsored stuff, but like it would increase my audience, and then like I sometimes randomly stream the podcast when I'm I'm feeling good.
Nice.
And then like some people were like, oh, that's how Billy like heard about it, and that's where he came from, like the sub and all that.
Mhm.
And like somebody I remember I was like, oh, I'm just like they're like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm doing a podcast. They're like, oh, is it always on Tuesdays? So when I stream it, I usually just throw it on. So
Nice.
Well, if they don't pick you, like you need to stand up, kick your chair back, and do like, I will destroy you, and just like storm out. Like,
yeah, I'll be like, would you just listen to the podcast and voted for Galaxy 2? Clearly why I didn't get the job, okay?
burn that bridge, dude. Do not leave that bridge intact. If they don't take
Yeah,
you,
it's funny. I got the interview because I pestered him too. Because I was like, I emailed this guy, and I emailed him one more time, and I was like, you know what? It's been 2 weeks. I'm gonna email him again. He's like, oh, I didn't get these other emails. I was like, bingo.
Know what I'd love to see, even though this would never happen, to see an Overwatch update and you just push Jeff out of the way and be like, yo, bitches, it's Mike. Just
Yo,
start talking.
I'm doing it the way I want right now. Oh, you scrub lords are going down.
It's like a wrestling
poor
match and
Jeff.
just bad talking everyone.
Yo, I'm right by
Done.
right by the official Blizzard headquarters, man. So, it could happen. I could kick Jeff out of the camera. See what goes down.
That'd be great. Love it. All right, Unoclay, what have you been playing this week?
Hey, I'm Unoclay, and this week I've been playing a lot of Doom on Switch. That game is killer because I didn't appreciate that when you play it. It's supposed to be the inverse. At first, I mean, it's obvious, but I didn't appreciate it. Like, it's the inverse of a survival horror game. It's horror, but you're supposed to unload on everything with, like, everything you got in every scene, like, as long as you're not playing on the hardest difficulty where you might have to conserve your ammo.
Mhm.
So, like, once I started to get my head around that I was like, because I play games really conservatively a lot of times. I'm not going to, like, unload. I'm going to try and do headshots. I'm going to try and, like, go, get as good as I can, even if it means redoing the level a lot. And once I realized Doom is supposed to be, like, just spewing jizz everywhere, just, like, killing everything you can see, I was like, okay, I like this game. This is hilarious. Like, I mean, it's tense, and toward the end, even on the regular difficulty, it gets reasonably difficult. Like toward the end, which I've got to be getting toward the end. Some of the stuff that's happening in the plot or whatever. So I assume I'm closing in on the end. So I've been playing a lot of Doom on Switch. It runs really well. I haven't seen any hiccups anymore after the update, and I'd only seen a little bit of slowdown before the update. And I don't use motion controls. We talked about it before, but I wish I could, because I can tell it would make a lot of the more precision stuff and some of the achievements easier to get if I could use motion controls. But my wrists don't love aiming with their.
Do you play docked or do you play a mix of both? Because it seems like a game that would be play at home, like versus like on the go. Yeah.
It looks really good. Like, I mean, compared to the other systems, I can't speak to it, but and it's a dark game a lot of times, so I don't find that works too good on the pad. I want as much distance as I can have to see stuff, because some of the weapons you can get, like, you don't have many sniping weapons or anything in Doom, but you've got some guns that you can equip a scope, like a medium range scope anyway, once you get further into the game. So you want to have that draw distance of a big screen and resolution. So I played it like a minute handheld once, and I was like, I don't like this. Is
I had a feeling. I felt like there's like some games on Switch, like even with the handheld option, I'm just like, that is not happening with this game.
It looks good. It's really loud too. So if you were playing it like off the dock, you'd want to use some good headphones, because it's like Full Metal soundtrack. We talked about it before. It's got like Chainsaw embedded in some of the soundtrack. Matt was pointing out, and it's like.
Yeah, my boy loves
like
Doom.
Heavy metal. Like, it's just like full on heavy metal blasting, demons screaming at you.
Clay, do you like Gears? Do you like Gears of War? Oh, okay. No. I just feel like you since you like Doom and like this, I'm like, damn, this guy might like Gears. Like, it kind of reminds me of the same. Like, bro, my boy who loves Gears loves Doom. He even replayed it. Like, when you said you just start picking it up, he's like, yeah, I'm playing it.
I forgot. I played a little of Gears 1 at my friend's house, and it's got all that cover shooting stuff, which isn't my favorite. Like, I mean, but I never did a lot of it. Like, I played Mass Effect with cover and stuff, and that was okay. Shooters aren't my main bag, but I mean, like, if I'm going to play one, I'm more used to the more first person, kind of game without the cover. Mm-hmm. And Doom, what really hooked me about Doom is, because I don't play a lot of these games, what hooked me about Doom is that, like I said, once you get your head around, the game is supposed to be almost a joke. Like, it's like hilarious. Like, you're just like unloading like missile launchers and plasma guns and like everything as fast as you can, like just dumping ammo.
But it's horror style. I got it.
Yeah, it's funny because like the demons are like exploding like all over the camera, as you're plowing through them with a chainsaw, and then you're whipping out your shotgun and like blowing their head off, and they're screaming in your ear, and when you die, it's like horrific, graphics of your guts getting ripped out by demons and they're stomping on you. It's just over the top level of like darkness, in the game, and I'm getting toward the end where it's actually hard and like you have to redo the scenes a lot because you'll get in an arena with like the game is just throwing everything it's got at you now, and you're just like no matter what I do here, I'm running out of ammo and I'm running out of like stuff, and I'm literally shooting like 40 missile launchers and pulling out a chain gun, and like and I'm still losing. I'm like, oh my god, so it's hilarious. I've totally converted for it. I'm enjoying the campaign a lot.
Nice.
Matt's gonna introduce a segment, an interview I did. So I've been playing a lot of a game called Membrane, and you'll hear me talk about that a lot. So I won't go on about that right now. And the only other funny thing I've been playing on the retro front this week, I threw in a game I got when I was in Japan. I picked up, I saw it everywhere. It was really common. The Star Wars game for Famicom, and I assumed it was the same as the NES Star Wars that I had never played. So I thought, I'll just get it. Well, it's like $5 because it's on every shelf here in Japan. Turns out Japan had the original Star Wars. They had their own game, and it's hard as nuts. It's a little bit like it looks like Mega Man type graphics a little bit. It's punishingly difficult because it gives you 3 lives, no continues. Fun fact: Luke Skywalker has black hair because in this game he has black hair. It's utterly funny. Like, it doesn't
So this is not Super Star Wars, right? Not because that's the only Star Wars ones I really know. So
yeah. I had never played at a flea market like a year ago. I got Empire for NES, and it's pretty good. It's got some flaws, but overall for the era, it's not a bad game. If you're looking for an NES Star Wars game, it's got kind of cool music. It's somewhat loyal to the film a little bit, but there is a Star Wars game for NES I've never played for American NES. So this is like a completely different game, and it's kind of I wouldn't say it's completely unique, but it's a rare situation where Japan had one Star Wars game and we had another Star Wars game on the same console, and they're not the same game. They're completely different games. So, kind of unique.
Is that like Aladdin?
Like a little bit like that.
Okay.
Like that, yeah, a little bit. Like it's a different game, effectively, right? Like those, they don't just swap skins. They don't. It's different game completely, right? Yeah. So. Yeah. The funny though, another fun fact about it, since most people listening to this will never get a chance to play it unless you're going to emulate it or something, but it's hilariously not canon storyline. Like in the first level, you go inside the Sandcrawler, and guess who's in there? Darth Vader. And guess what Darth Vader?
He's just there.
He's there. You know what? But when you find him, I couldn't read it, so I had to look up a translation because it's in kanji. And he says, "I am Scorpion Vader," and he turns into a scorpion. And
What?
I know. It was great just for that.
Dude, that's great.
Yeah, I'm watching.
I hate it when that happened in the movie too, man. Really
I know. It's the worst. Luke's like, "What's going on? I don't even know how to use my lightsaber at this part of the movie yet. Yet I have to use it and fight you and beat you as Scorpion Vader. Like this is horrible,
Yeah. It's clearly, that was his first form. Okay, gosh.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's got that Japanese flavor because, like, I got further in the game, and of course, in the it took me forever to get to the end of the second world. I think it's the end of it. It's really, really difficult. And of course, it's Vader again, but Vader turns into a flying bird, and it's like he's like a swooping vulture. It's like I don't know what he's.
Okay, is he messing with your mind or the Force, or he just happens to be a transformer or some?
All he says is, "I'm Scorpion Vader." I don't know, man.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
It's
classic Scorpion Vader.
Yeah, it was great. So that's what I've been playing this week.
I was looking at the video, and even the opening has like the Fox intro, but with like the developer names. So it's like Future Creator and Namco, and like the Fox sort of way with the spotlights and whatnot. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
And then the funny thing is the cutscenes have. Luke looks correct in the cutscenes. Like he looks a lot like Luke Skywalker, and then the game starts, and guess what? He's got black hair, and you're like it's not like a small sprite either, where you're like, oh, they didn't have enough room to color it in correctly. It's like
No,
his
there's
hair
enough.
is several pixels tall and it's black. Like his hair is
Yeah.
black. It's like, what were you doing?
They blew the budget on the cutscenes, man. Eh?
I guess. They didn't give you any lives either. They blew the budget on like giving you 3 lives. I've seen that game over scene with like Darth Vader's face laughing at me, like Ganon Zelda 2 style, like like they show you his face real big.
Oh,
like,
yeah, with Pig Ganon. Yeah.
like
Oh,
it's like breathing at you. And this one, it's Darth, and it's like I've seen that fucking screen 50 times easily. I'm just like like getting that level. Like I don't know how much more I'm gonna put into this because it's got like it's got like really bad jump physics where you're always falling off a ledge when you were aiming for a ledge. The scroll is really bad when you're trying to jump from ledge to ledge. So it's like it's not a great game, but it's got good music. I got to give it to it. They really did good versions of 8-bit like Star Wars music, and that kind of keeps me coming back. Where I'm like, this isn't a terrible game. It's just a little janky. Like, and I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to finish it. It's one of those games where I'm hitting a wall. That 3 life limit is what kills it. You're just like, I gotta do it again, like every day. Yeah. So anyway, kind of recommended. Half recommendation if you have a Famicom, and it's cheap as hell. I think I paid $5 for it, literally. So, $5 in Japan anyway. So, yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
Cool. So before we move on to the topic, this week Unoclay actually interviewed Seth Scott. He's the developer of Membrane for Switch. So here's about a 10 to 15 minute preview. There's a full version on our feed and actually on Unoclay's channel, Unoclay Gaming, his YouTube channel. He has the interview as well, but it actually has gameplay. So if you want to check out gameplay of the video of the game, it's there. And we'll, start the interview teaser.
Welcome to a special segment tonight on the Just Another Castle podcast. I am Unoclay, as you know, and for this section of the show, it's just going to be me interviewing possibly our first dev ever on the show. I'm not sure. We may have had a couple guests on before that have been involved in game development. I'm not sure if we've ever had a dev on before that has completed an entire game, and I'm positive we've never had anyone on that published a game to a Nintendo platform. So without further ado, may I welcome Seth Scott to the show. Hi, Seth. Tell us who you are and all about your little game you just got out on Switch.
Yeah, awesome. First of all, thanks for having me on. I'm delighted to be here. And I just released a game called Membrane, and it is, I've been calling it a creative action puzzle game, kind of a weird little mashup phrase that I kind of came up with during development, because I didn't really necessarily want to just call it a puzzle platformer or just a platformer or just a puzzle game. And the game was designed around this idea of allowing creative space for the player while they're playing the game. So it kind of has puzzle elements, but it also has this kind of action-y platformer element as well.
But I think just for the listeners who haven't seen it, I did post a video on my YouTube channel, Unoclay Gaming, of some gameplay mechanics. If you want to check that out while you're listening to this, you could see the game. But I think that's an apt description. You said, did you say action puzzle platformer? Is that how you termed it?
Yeah, I've been calling it a creative action puzzle game.
Okay.
Creative action puzzle platformer.
Okay. That seems very apt. That matches what I think of. It looks like a platformer, but it's got more of a kind of physics engine to it. A little bit of puzzle elements, kind of combined with it's World of Goo. Let's just say it. It reminds me of World of Goo a little bit, not entirely.
Yeah. No, I would. Gladly, and I would be lying if I said that wasn't one of my main inspirations for the game.
Okay. You said you didn't have a degree in computer science, but then you did mention a master's. So now, did you finish an undergrad in something else and then go back to school for something related to computer design, or just completely off script? The computer design is something that's self-taught. How did this come about?
Yeah, so my undergrad was in like fine arts, and I grew up with artist as a. My dad was an artist, my mom was a musician, so kind of grew up with art my whole life in various formats. Just some stuff that I loved to do was to do art and whatever. But getting a bachelor's degree in fine arts not the most lucrative thing to do.
I know the feeling.
So yeah, I had various jobs after undergrad, and I've always worked with. My first job was like a camp counselor or junior camp counselor when I was 14, and worked with kids in education and also in kind of like summer camp type formats for a very long time. So I decided to get my teaching license and kind of become a full-time teacher. And that was something I was like really into and super passionate about for a handful of years. And then I kind of stumbled upon this program that I just graduated from, the NYU Game Center. And it's a fine art program, but it's game design. And the way that some of the faculty and some of the ways they talk about games and design and the medium of game design was just right up my alley. And they were, approaching games from a fine art perspective instead of just like a computer science or something perspective.
Wow.
So yeah, it just like instantly hit me, and I was like, wow, this seems like the perfect place for me.
That's amazing. In art, you tend to find the thing you didn't think of is your worst enemy, and how do you think of the thing you haven't thought of? That is in fact playtesting, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I mean it's crazy and it's surprising. I mean, even I've been very mad at myself in those thousands of hours working on this game where I was like, man, why did I make a game that's like a lot about creating physics structure? Because it's like the second and it's actually something that I've grown to love, and a reason why actually one of my most proud things about the game personally is just every time I show it at an event or see somebody play it for the first time, whether it's in person or even like on like videos like yours or other like Let's Play stuff, I see somebody do something that I had never thought of myself or tried.
Right.
And like during playtesting and in that element, it sucks because I'm like, oh shit, they just like break something right away or whatever. But
that is the danger. Yeah, that's actually true. The danger of your game is that it's got a creative element to it. I mean, the basic function of the game is to be creative. Right. So I've been following Sets with a Z on the end for quite a while, and I believe you've posted music before. So I guess my question is, I guess you have kind of an interest in making music, or maybe that kind of went hand in hand with this game design. I kind of want to ask you about that. Were you doing that independently of designing the game, or was it kind of hand in hand? And also, what kind of musical influences would you say like lent themselves to the soundtrack for this game? Because it really stands out. The soundtrack is just excellent, and I just love it. And it really, it's the perfect sort of soundtrack for a game where you might be on the same level for many minutes at a time, and it's got a loop eventually, which is a really tricky, tightrope to walk, where you're not going to like make the player turn off the music and just go and put on their own music, and I find myself listening to it and really enjoying the kind of dynamic nature of the music that changes contextually in the game, but also just the general sound you created there. So I'd like to hear you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I mean, it's all those things you're saying are really awesome to hear somebody else find those things from it. But yeah, it's I definitely have been a big fan of making music for a while now. I've been in a couple different bands. But yeah, so the music, I usually, outside of band stuff, the kind of music that I personally kind of do on my own or whatever tends to be a little more instrumental or kind of more like score based, something you'd see in a movie or a game or something that has a little more kind kind of slower elements to it, and kind of not as like strict songwriting type style of music. And yeah, I knew that I've been really into bands or different musicians that kind of use lots of like very tactile type stuff, or try and create these weird atmospheres or environments for their songs. The one thing that I always knew is like I personally, especially now getting older and like maybe not getting the time to play as many games as I used to, is like I love beating a game and being like, that game was great, I finished it, it's done, I can move on from it in my mind.
Right.
And yeah, there's some of these bigger games now that I enjoy as well, like Breath of the Wild, or something that I'll beat, but I'm never going to perfect. But
right.
And I still enjoy those. But I feel like a lot of games nowadays are moving more towards just like so much content that players can't complain about spending $60 on it or something, because there's like, oh well, you can keep doing stuff. You didn't beat it yet.
Right.
And I personally will pay $60 or $20 or whatever for a game, and I don't really care about the length. And I knew with Membrane I wanted it to be a nice little bookended experience that was somewhere that just felt good in its play and its length, and like it didn't outstay its welcome, and you weren't like, oh god, more levels. And so I tried to obviously there's no perfect answer or way to justify or quantify that, but I knew that I wanted it to be a nice kind of set of levels and a nice bookended thing that you can hopefully beat and be like, oh, that was great, and felt like a good length.
On behalf of every backlogged video gamer on the planet, may I say thank you for having that philosophy and yeah.
I made a decision like a couple months ago. I was like, you know what, I'll actually happily, kind of the opposite of what I was just saying. I was like, I'm happy to play Breath of the Wild for the rest of my life.
And well, there's a space for both kind of games. That's the point. Yeah. And your game fulfills that other niche where some of us sometimes want to finish something. You want to finish it. You want to see the game be done, and say, that was neat. But I know a lot of our listeners would want a nutshell of how working with Nintendo was, like what the general experience of getting this game on a Nintendo platform, because at this point it's exclusive to Nintendo, if I'm not mistaken, and you had to go through famously there's kind of all kinds of stories outside the industry of like how it is to get a game onto a Nintendo platform historically speaking. Now we hear, us peons hear, that it's getting easier for a Switch, and it does look that way given the eShop's explosion of titles in the last few months. But how was it for you? How was your experience of the submission and approval and certification?
I think it's obviously this is another thing that I could talk about for a while, but ultimately it was a great experience. And I definitely am not just gonna say everything was awesome just because I don't want to risk anything. But yeah, it was great. And I think the team that I worked with there was personable and just like very genuine. You don't feel, at least in my case, I didn't feel like I was just like sending emails to a bot that was, giving me, just generic responses to stuff. There's, I know there's, a lot of people trying to kind of, or there is, like you said, lots of different kind of various stories about it, working with Nintendo or just working with any kind of publisher or something. And, I don't know. My only advice is, I just came up with an idea and a prototype in a game that I felt super proud of, and put a really professional pitch together that I felt, really proud of, and something I spent a lot of time just on itself doing, outside of the game. Once kind of that phase got through and I was working with them and kind of developing the game, actually making the game, work on their hardware and stuff. yeah, there's obviously hurdles for me in terms of just learning the hardware and that side of it, especially as smaller team. But yeah, it was great, and something I'm excited to continue our relationship and keep making games and putting them out on their platform.
Your Studio Perfect hat is your first on the Switch effort anyway is just awesome, and I really encourage the listeners that are listening to pick it up and support you so we can see what's next. And
Thanks. Yeah.
And like I wasn't kidding. Get your resume with those guys over there at the I'm blanking World of Goo Studio.
Morrow Corporation.
Yeah, because you are doing their work for them right here. I look at this and I'm like, this is the kind of thing they're clearly trying to do. So it's a great connection there in my mind that I'm like, wow, I love both these kind of games. So I'm super glad to have found your game and been able to talk to you about it tonight. So
yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you.
Where can people look you up other than going straight to the eShop and downloading Membrane? Like, do you want them to follow you on Twitter or go to your website or ignore you entirely so you can have a private life?
No, I mean, Twitter's definitely the social media channel that I probably use the most, or kind of am visit regularly through like the at sets that we talked about earlier, or you can at Membrane Game as well. We do have Facebook and Instagram for Perfect Hat Games, and on Instagram, and Membrane has a page on Facebook.
Hopefully we can get you a little bit of exposure on our humble little podcast. And
appreciate being a part of it. It means a lot. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been Just Another Castle Podcast. I'm Unoclay, Unoclay_Switch. But more importantly, check out Membrane. It's a great game, and you won't regret it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
All right, so there's your teaser for the interview. Again, you can check it out on our podcast feed or watch the interview with gameplay on Unoclay's YouTube channel, Unoclay Gaming. And thanks, Unoclay, for making the interview.
Not a problem. It was a pleasure. He was a former my IGNer, as I mentioned in the interview, in the full interview. So we wanted to give him, help. I think we all agreed getting the word out for his game. He's been hard at work at it, and I can genuinely say the game is super fun. I've been playing a lot of it. I haven't finished yet, but I'm going to, because the full interview, if you listen to it on my channel, or if you check out the full interview here, I think it was edited out of the abridged version that we're going to insert into this show. But he spent a lot of time trying to balance the game and develop the game in such a way that it can be finished. We actually get off on a big tangent about the idea that games are too big to be 100%ed anymore in a lot of cases, and that he really craves experiences himself as a developer, that a game that can be actually completed and you can put it away and say, that was fun. Like the old days, like when you finish a game, and you can feel it with this game. It's designed that way. It's not, the content is plenty. The physics are cool. The game is fun. It's a little similar to World of Goo, and it's got, but it's, on a smaller scale. But it's got some secrets, some hidden stuff that I'm just starting to figure out, but not enough that you're going to be like, oh boy, this is going to be a few more months. It's definitely the kind of thing that you can plow through in a couple sittings, maybe a 10, I'm going to guess at like a 5 to 10 hour, depending on how fast you are and how good you are at physics based puzzlers. So, so thanks for giving me the opportunity to get that on here, because I really wanted to support him. And I know as a former my IGNer, we all kind of gotta help each other out. So
yeah, no, it was a good interview. I actually saw it that you uploaded it in preps for when this podcast airs, and I watched it like just enough time before the podcast, so I wanted to make sure I got that perspective. But yeah,
Nice.
it was cool.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, he's a great guy. So
it's kind
look
of
him up,
funny.
Membrane. So, yeah,
It's
so
kind of
it's
funny
great.
listening to him saying, I was a teacher, and then I just kind of went back to school to try making to go take a program for games and made a game. And it's like, man, I went to school for 3 years, and our thing was actually titled like game development, and we didn't actually really make a game that we could like publish or anything. And then if you actually want to, you have to spend another year and have to have that 3-year program as a prerequisite, and you have to like make a letter, and they have to like approve of you and all this other stuff. It was just funny to be like, man, we had to jump through all these hoops. He just kind of like walked in and was like, yeah, can I make a game? And they're like, sure. And then he actually like published it. Like, I mean, to be fair, our streams were focused on like one's modeling and one's animation, but we still did some like game stuff in there. But I mean, it's just funny that it's like we were also game students for like several years, and we didn't have a game to show for it.
Yeah,
It's just funny how that works.
It does sound like he talked a lot in the extended interview about the program that he was part of, and it's just like it sounds very, very targeted. That it's like the idea is game lab. Like it is get a game done, almost like almost like a trade school type of program. So. For those of you that don't have time to listen to the full interview, he was specifically talking about NYU in New York City and the Brooklyn campus. They have a game laboratory program apparently, and so you'd have to look up more details. I don't know too much about it other than what he told me in the interview, but it sounded really cool. It is inspiring to me as someone who actually started college many moons ago as comp sci for the idea of designing games, and comp sci is a very difficult major, is what I learned. I mean, physics. At a university level, you have to do like five classes of physics all the way up to like academic, like high end, calculus, everything, the whole bag. And some of those are not my strongest suits. And I was terrified from the minute go. I spent a year kind of hacking away at that before I realized it wasn't for me, at least in that direction. But listening to him talk about a game lab, I was like, wow, that sounds really, really interesting, in fact, so anywho, neat stuff. Well, thanks for pimping the interview, Matt.
No problem. Thanks for making it.
Yep.
So
thanks to everyone.
Yeah. So we'll move on to our topic. I kind of don't want to sit on here too long, but rather than do like a 1-year review, because I think that's kind of played and done, and doesn't really seem interesting to me to be like, hey, what was great about the thing we already know is great. It's like, no one needs, the people listening to this already know they don't need a recap of the thing they just spent a year toying around with. So I thought it'd be more interesting to see, what are we looking forward to in the second year of the Switch? Because the first year was a good launching off point, but where can we go from here? I had a lot more bullet points, but I think I'm only going to stick with one for me in particular, but I'll let you go first. So
the basic question is like, what are we looking forward to in the second year Switch, or what's our dream list, or what that's announced that like they're coming with?
No, I guess what do you want to see happen with the Switch? It doesn't have to be games. It could, like, my subheadings were system update, online, games, surprises, anything like that.
I was at an appointment earlier and I was thinking about the question as you phrased it, kind of open-ended. So I kind of tried to like write down like notes to myself of both wish list, dream list, and like realistic announced content. Mm-hmm. I didn't stick so much to like the Switch itself. I was more thinking of games.
Okay, that's fine.
Because to me, the Switch is nearly perfect. And I say that sincerely as a lifer Nintendo who owns every major console that they ever released, most handhelds. It's nearly a perfect device. There could be a little bit of a discount for the controllers. I'd say that.
Yeah.
that's never going to happen. So it's not even something I put on a wish list because I know Nintendo too well. They're never going to discount these controllers. They're never going to discount the Joy-Cons. So it's not even a realistic wish. It's like wishing for the moon to fall. I mean, if you want to get like a Pro controller for Wii U, you still have to pay like $50-$60 used on eBay. Like, I mean, and granted, the market is a smaller market for the used market there, whatever. A lot of factors, but it's just the facts. You know, we all know what people are paying for GameCube controllers still in the box these days. You know, well, maybe we don't, but they are a very high price for an unused GameCube controller at this point. Original OG Nintendo GameCube controller. So in the realm of possibility, I didn't really think of anything for the hardware. I mean, everyone wants this, you know, it's like I could just sit here and list the stuff everyone wants. Like we all want save backups. Everyone wants save backups. There's not someone on earth who doesn't want that.
Forgot about that.
They've got to solve that. They've got to solve that. That's absolutely terrifying. The only thing I'd even support you about your neurosis about taking it out of the house. How's the fun going, by the way? You know, is that the save files? It's not damaging the system. It's like put it in your little man purse, dude. Get the little case for it, put it in the man purse, chain it to your wrist. You know, never let it out of your sight. It'll be fine. But like the save data, if you lose it or it gets stolen or something like that, is just not cool. That is not cool. Like I used to not think that way, but
I mean, even the 3DS has like a backup option on it. Like you can save go to each individual game and like save it. So,
right. So they need to fix that. But again, everybody on Earth, I'll just list them off. Like I mean, like the games I thought of, like because so the system itself,
Actually, I just want to interject with something small.
Go ahead.
I put for system update, like besides themes, because themes seem pretty obvious, is have some sound effects with the themes, which I mean, I guess Sony has done with some of their themes. But I was just thinking, like, oh man, no, it would be great for the interface, more sound effects. Like when you hit your profile and you hear that whistle, it's like, man, that's so iconic. I gotta have more of these themes. Yeah. Anytime I click that button, I whistle. It's like, how can you not? It's so catchy. So more noises. It's such a dumb request, but
that's not something that I ever think of. Like that's not like the kind of thing I would care about. It's funny because I'm also a purist. That it's like I
just heard it.
I'm also a purist. I tend to keep like if I don't keep my icons or my avatars or my system layout the same forever, it's at least many years for me. I'm just that kind of person. I hardly ever change that kind of stuff. So for me, it's like, I'm happy if it makes other people happy. But that's an interesting thing. Themes and things like that, I never really dig into those. I'll just find the one I like, and that's it. I'm just weird like that. But I know other people love it. You know, so. Good idea. Yeah, I can see that being realistic. Also, I can see that happening.
I'm sure that's inevitable. They did it on the 3DS for so many years. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a bunch of 3DS updates over like folders and make the icons bigger or smaller and customize their location. Probably like drag and drop like apps on an iPhone, or I'm sure all of that's in the works and happening.
Right. Yeah. It's easy money for them because I think they charge money for some of the more premium ones, right? On like 3DS or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like an easy money maker, like real quick pickup, like for wallpaper, basically that they're selling you for like $1, or something like that for them to make $1 million. Like it's like, yeah, let's dump some wallpapers on the eShop. We'll say you get 3 for $1, or they'll never make it that cheap. That's not Nintendo, but it's an easy mill in their pocket for making wallpapers basically and deploying the functionality, so I mean they will do that. that is a good cost effective way to make some money for them, and they don't not like money. So speaking of
the eShop, I just remembered the gold coin thing went live, so now you can redeem all your stuff, and I haven't actually checked how it works out, but I think if you go to the checkout you can probably like redeem your gold coins there, because how it works is it's basically like a dollar value.
Yeah,
it's like
that is how they explain it. That you'll get a discount when you check out. So that seems like it's good. That's a good news bullet.
Anything. Yeah, but you were gonna say games you wanted to see.
Well, I want to follow on what you were saying, because like I think the coins thing is important news. It's probably the most important news of the week in some ways, but it's a little opaque. So if you're not like following the exact details of it, it's like, first of all, I checked today to make sure I could remember how to do it. Like, and they hide it. So if you don't have any idea what we're talking about, nutshell, you get coins which can convert into discounts for Nintendo products from everything you buy from them, whether physical or eShop. So as long as you have a My Nintendo account, and I think you almost have to if you have a Switch. I guess you don't, but okay, you have to have a My Nintendo account. It has to be tied to your Switch. That's step one. Now, if you bought a physical game, there's an extra step you have to know about, and that is achieved by going to the home menu and pressing the plus button while you're on the icon for the item. And then there is a new menu that you hardly ever see because you hardly ever would press that button. And there's a button on that screen that says My Nintendo Rewards Program, and you can go in there and redeem your coins like for the physical copy. Mm-hmm. They made it an extra step because they're trying to clearly make people not buy physical. They're definitely trying to encourage people to.
I don't think that's why
digital.
It's like under menus. I think it's just that it makes more sense if you want to redeem the one. You click a button on it, and it's just there's no other good way of making it. Now, I will say they are incentivizing digital over physical because you only get 1% gold coins back on physical, whereas with digital you get 5%.
Well, right. That's a huge incentive because Nintendo wants all the money. They don't want GameStop to get the money. So if you buy a digital game, you're getting more coins, which are therefore a bigger discount for future games. Nintendo's trying to push.
Apparently, you only get if you bought a physical game, let's say, at a greater cost, and the digital version is cheaper, you'll only get points based off of how much the digital version costs. Which is news to me. Right. So if the digital one is 40 and you bought it physical for 60, you're only getting the $40 or 1% off of $40.
Yeah. So, yes.
And then to add even more confusion to this, you can only redeem gold coins on games within the first year that the game is released, not when you bought it.
I didn't know that.
So all the launch games. I forget when the Switch launches, like March 3rd or something like that. You would have had to redeem the gold coins for those games before they reach a year old, which is the dumbest thing ever because the gold coins expire after a year anyway. So have it one way or the other. Don't it's a mess.
I mean, the bottom line is Nintendo. Okay, so like I'm generally positive on this. Nintendo, like you know what line I'm going to take here, like. Nintendo doesn't have to give us anything.
They don't, but if they're going to, just make it easy to understand. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you don't have to give me money back, but could you at least make it so, like, if you don't want to give money back, don't bother. But if you're going to do it, at least let people, like, make it understandable. Like, even if you're going to have an expiry date on it, okay, have it on, like, the coins themselves versus the game as well, because that no one's like 99% of people aren't going to know that. I mean, 99% of people probably aren't going to know how to redeem them anyway, but it sure doesn't help.
I hear what you're saying.
Why make a program that you're not really going to do well? But that's all.
No, I totally understand. I totally get where you're coming from there. Like it's hard to say. Like they clearly see you. I have to say, like, I think they hit it in that Okay, so my first point would be, why wouldn't you automatically redeem the coins when you insert a new cartridge if you have a Nintendo account tied to your Switch? Like, why do they make?
I'm guessing because if you have multiple accounts, they don't want to be like, oh, well, this one is the main account because let's say you have automatically log into the eShop for one specific account.
I see.
Like
that's interesting.
So I could see that being a pain. Or if you go to a friend's house and you're like, oh, I just bought this game here, click it in and that. So
all right.
I think there's legitimate reasons for that.
I think you convinced me. I think that's a reasonable objection that I can hear. and respect, because my inclination is to think you did this so that we won't redeem them because we'll forget, or people that don't know what they're doing will never get those coins. They
Well, I mean,
hide it in a sub menu.
The counter
You
argument
know,
to that is if you bought digital, they would make you click another button to do it, but
Right.
it's not. It's automatic, right?
right?
And you
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
get more coins for that. So
I think you've convinced me. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. Like it's the digital purchase is automatic. I was reading it the opposite way because I was like, well, if they're letting you get it automatic, but see, that's a win-win for them. Like I could still, if I wanted to go on about this debate, I could still say, but that's still a win-win for them because they are trying to incentivize you to buy stuff through the eShop. And that is why you get the 5%, and that's why it's automatic. They
I guess.
want you to use that program, and they don't want you to use the physical program. Like they're trying to depress the physical program
Sure.
subtly, you know. But
well, they could
you
just
know, it's-
not have a physical program, right?
yeah, and then everyone will be mad. So that's why they're giving you the 1%. They're like, well, we'll kick something down. We're not going to sweat it.
I
You know,
think
we're
it's
gonna.
just a problem of there's not really a good way of doing it besides doing it manually.
Yeah, I think your argument about the different accounts is fair because then you'd have all these people calling in and be like, oh, my little brother put it in and I'm the one that paid for it, you know,
Yeah.
or something like that.
I'm the one that licked it, and yeah, he's the one who got the points. What is this garbage?
That's
licked
funny.
it
So
first.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So our dreams for this year for Switch, like back to that. So okay,
Yeah.
so you want some skins, I want Netflix. I sort of hinted that I you know, and I already said about save files. Like who doesn't want it? Well, everyone wants a browser. It's like
Yeah,
it's a moot point, you know.
Yeah.
Like if I could have games, like I was banging around, and I mean Smash is a no-brainer. We're gonna get it, you know. So I don't even need to go on about that. Smash with new content specifically is what I had written down. Who cares? We all want that. If I want to go out on a limb, you know, I guess my dream games, so we don't drag this segment on too long, like maybe the top ones I'm scanning down my list here that I had written down and things I'd want would be Resident Evil 7 or Mario Sunshine HD would be like tops for me out of the things I thought of off the top of my head for like games I'd love to see come to Switch that they could surprise us with, because Capcom's been teasing, Capcom's been feeling it out. Capcom's put a few things on, including RE Revelations 1 and 2, and I would love to see Resident Evil 7, which I hear is really, really good, even though I'm not going to get to play it in VR and have a heart attack like the rest of the world. You know, like I loved Resident Evils 1 through 4. And you know, some of the side games that I've played outside of that, I've never played 5 and 6, which I hear isn't a big loss. But I hear 7 brings it back, and the series is insanely scary again and awesome and super fun and hilarious in its own weird way. And it has a lot of the, you know, throwbacks to like the games from the earlier days in some ways, and then the learning element from like the games that they made that were a little more successful in a modern way. So I would love to play that. And Mario Sunshine, I know we've had the discussion, the analog triggers are a tough problem for Switch to face, which you need in order to operate FLUDD correctly in Mario Sunshine. And I know not everyone loves that game.
You could the triggers probably aren't really that big of a deal, because I don't think there's a point where you really need like light sensitivity on it.
I haven't played it long enough to be able to say, but I thought that people had a strong argument that was the problem. In fact, that you do.
I think people brought that up simply because, like, I could be wrong, but I think people brought it up simply because it's one of like very few games that actually bother using it. Because there's not a lot. There's like that Melee and a handful of others. I think what you could do to compensate is just use another button, so the regular push down is light, and then you hold another trigger and it's like a harder pressure, like a binary, like one's soft and one's hard, because I don't think you really need much granularity between it.
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and play it. My gut is that I feel like there could be some problems there, because remember, this is a platformer game where you got to have some precision, like about everything. And I just don't remember well enough, because frankly, every time I get the urge to go and play it, ever since Nintendo's gotten into the HD remake business, I've said no to myself. I'm like, no, hold out. Like, no, hold out till it comes, like, again, because then you can play it again. Because if I play it again now, you won't, and then in a year they drop it, I'm not going to be as excited at all. I'm gonna buy it and play it for like 20 minutes and be like, I'm just too familiar with this game, you know. Like I just, you know. So I've been holding out. So those two, I mean, in that, like, I'll wrap up and let you throw a few in the fire here for our wish list. Like the RE7 thing, before we move away from it, the ultimate dream for me is like, I can't deny that as an enthusiast for all things technological, in a retro sense, there is this part of me that then has always fantasized about VR, and I've never played modern VR yet. Like I've played a few demos at trade shows a few years ago when it was really rudimentary. I've never strapped on, an Oculus in the modern sense or played a PlayStation VR. And like, I kind of do wish in a secret way, not like hard, like wishing Nintendo would do my every bidding, but there's this like little part of me that's like, I kind of do wish you'd like try out VR for at least a few games and like get it running so that like if companies wanted to do it, they could have it, and I know that's my long shot. That's my long shot for the week where I'm like, that's not happening. I know that's not happening, but I wouldn't cry if they said, yeah, we're doing a VR headset and some of the games from these other consoles that are not exclusive are coming over or gonna come to Switch now that Switch is a hot commodity, but not going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
I think even if you strapped it to your face, it's mostly the resolution that's the problem. Because
Right,
the Switch,
right.
I think, is 720, and I think Eli said even 1080p isn't enough for VR.
Right. I'm saying they would have to make a standalone like headset that would run off the Switch, like not the Switch itself. Like so, yeah. I know it's not happening. It's exactly, the Switch itself could not do it the way people have theorized. So I agree with what you're saying and what Eli probably said previously. Like I think you could do something funny with it and put it close to your face. And Nintendo being weird ass Nintendo, they could probably do some cool things.
VR Labo kind of thing. Like it's not really VR, but they'll like screw around with something.
Right. And I would like that too. I'm not saying I'd be against that, but I sure wouldn't be playing Resident Evil 7 on it either.
Yeah.
So it's like, like I would still enjoy that. I'd say that for the record, like something funny with Nintendo's goofy ass version of VR. I mean, you know me, I own a freaking Virtual Boy. If they even did some like if they did a Labo Virtual Boy headset, like you could build your own Virtual Boy and it's like and realize and then they and here we go, and then they drop all the Virtual Boy games onto the eShop for it, and you can play quote Virtual Boy with a headset that you made out of Labo. I'll pay $100.
Oh my gosh, that would be cool.
Nintendo, if you're listening, I want my Labo VR.
They could do that too, because like you don't really need high resolution screens for the virtual. I mean, yeah, I guess they probably wouldn't do it, but you could, as long as they have the games on there. If they had some sort of like split mode in there, so that people could do it if they wanted, and someone just figures out how to make a pattern for well, actually you don't even need a pattern, you just stick it in a box and stick it on your face, but as long as they have the games on there, you could do it sort of.
I'm sending you an image. Someone has already tried to do this because I was just theorizing like how you would do it in my head, and I was like, you could all you have to do is split the image, because like the way it works is like each eye shows you a different image when you're using Virtual Boy, which is also part of the problem with like when they break, if one eye even goes out a tiny bit, you have this real big problem that like it looks blurry when you're looking through it because one of your eyes is a little off. So I've had mine like repaired by experts like multiple times. Like this guy in California, that if anyone's listening to this podcast, hit me up, Unoclay_Switch on Twitter, and I can send you the info for a guy that's repaired mine. With like, he's done it for free several times because his first couple attempts at it were like okay, and now he's got this new like kind of private method, not the baking it in your oven method that everybody knows about, because that doesn't work so well. I've tried it, trust me. Like it, like he's fixed it and it works really well. And
Wait,
I think he's
again?
like
I lost track.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm kind of going through it quickly because it's a lot of info. But my Virtual Boy, they have fundamental wiring flaws in them that like go bad, like that, like you need to either be handy or have someone repair it for you or get it pre-repaired when you buy it, which is kind of hard to find. Like because people fix it different ways, and the fixes don't stick is the problem, because the thing is janky as heck all the way down to the guts. And there's things you need to know about owning a Virtual Boy, like don't turn the gray knob on top that's supposed to be able to adjust certain factors inside the vision. You shouldn't turn that ever, is what I've learned, because it pulls ribbons inside the thing that pull apart, apparently, like inside the machine itself. Like it's just not a very well built thing, with respect for the designers of it, who were really smart people, but it was just a big fail. But yeah, man, like they'll never do it. But man, Labo opens a door that I hadn't thought of, that I'm like, oh, you could be really funny about it and embrace your goofy Virtual Boy, prodigal son. I don't even know that's the right way to put it. Like, kind of forgotten element of Nintendo, kind of pushed down, kind of like pushed aside. You could embrace it in a comical way with Labo and be like, I don't know. They'd never do it, but boy, would I be happy.
I think they'd only never do it just because they'd be like, wow, someone's going to get a seizure or go blind or something stupid because it's all red. We don't want to be held responsible. That's like the main reason I could, not even just like they don't want to be embarrassed by bringing the games up or anything, just the stupid all red eye color. They're like, great, we don't want to deal with this again.
The sad secret about Virtual Boy is, like, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, I'll say it and be done, is that although the library is tiny, there are actually some good games in that library. Like, not many, but the Mario Clash game, the WarioWare game, everybody knows. If you read about Virtual Boy for 25 minutes, you will know everything about it that there is to know. And one of the main facts you'll know is that the Wario game port is actually really good. It's a great game. It's a lot like Mutant Mudds. Half the stuff in Mutant Mudds that they're riffing on is a little bit of Virtual Boy. Like there's a ton of Virtual Boy like fan service in the Mutant Mudds video games if you've played those, because not only are there levels that are blatantly like riffing on it where the color palette changes to a Virtual Boy color palette, but the mechanic of jumping to the foreground and the background in Mutant Mudds is straight up Virtual Boy, because that's really what it, for the very limited amount of software there is for it, that's one of the fundamental features that you encounter a lot, is like foreground background swapping, where it's kind of a fake 3D. So they made different planes to the game, so to speak. Like a platformer had like a far away plane and then a close up plane, kind of like Donkey Kong Country does sometimes, and things like that. And you swap between them in the gameplay, and it creates a 3D effect as you're doing that, which it's not 3D the way an N64 game is 3D. It's like you have different like layers to the game you're playing. And like
kind of.
Yes, exactly. It's parallax. I was searching for that word. Thank you. So yeah, and it's like, and there are great games that they did in this small amount of time that the system was alive. Not many again, but it's sad because they don't have a second life at this point. I do think Nintendo probably, if they could think of a way to do it where they don't feel like they're making fun of themselves and they're not going to get laughed at, could see that and would want to bring a couple of those titles back, specifically Mario Clash and the WarioWare game, or Wario Land, I believe it's called. But yeah, and then there's a few others. There's a proto Punch Out game in there. There's kind of like Punch Out 1.5 is a game. It's called Robo Clash and stuff like that. There are parts of Nintendo's history that have kind of been like, forgotten completely. But anyway, I've talked enough about that. So yeah, that's my wish for this year. Virtual Boy headset Labo for Switch. Matt, what else are you hoping for this year? I've talked enough.
So you brought up Super Mario Sunshine HD, and I actually didn't put this on my list, but I think it was like within the last couple of days, I think because we have Super Mario Galaxy 2 on our list. Oh, that's what it was. I was looking at both games to get a bit of a refresher, and I wanted to see what Cave Story was about, and not just say I don't know what this game is, I haven't played it, blah blah blah, because I don't want to keep saying that. I feel bad. So I actually looked into some videos like, hey, what's great about this game? And I watched like one of them before the podcast. But yeah, so the Dolphin emulator, you can play like GameCube and Wii games in HD, but you can also upres them to like 4K. And wow. I looked at some like Super Mario Galaxy in like 4K or at least HD, and man, like just increasing the resolution of that game. Like I don't even need a remake. Like put that on the eShop for $20. Like good. That's all it needs because it just looks so good.
that's the weird thing about being a retro enthusiast, because you make that decision whether you're going to do that stuff or not, because emulators can actually look a lot better than the original game, like if done correctly. Like, and
I'll send you a link of it. You can watch while you're talking. But
yeah,
it
it's
just looks
painful. It's painful as a retro guy. Like it's painful, especially for N64 and stuff like that, because I know that you can do stuff with emulators that make those games look way better than they do on the native hardware.
Mhm.
Like, and I resist the temptation, because I don't really enjoy emulators at all. Like, so I resist the temptation. But boy,
You also have
the
to have
look
like
of
a
it.
decent computer to run.
Yeah. That's a factor too. You gotta spend a lot of time getting them running. All this stuff frustrates the crap out of me. So
Yeah.
I will check out that link then. Thanks for sending me that.
But
So
it's just
neat.
you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is pretty. Just give it.
Yeah.
Because like
I don't
once you
wanna-
pass a certain amount of time that you haven't played something, it's like, yeah, sure, I could go for that again. Like if you just
Yeah.
re-release this in HD, I'll buy it. I mean, providing
Yeah.
you don't overcharge the crap out of it, but
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I'm looking at it now. I'm checking this out. Matt sent me, for the listeners who can't see, it's an upscale of Galaxy all the way to 4K, side by side with the 480p. I need to spend some time staring at this, so I will check this out later. But
Sure.
it does look better. It sure looks better than my freaking Wii. I'll tell you that. Like it. There's not a
yeah,
question
the
here.
difference is like wearing drunk goggles.
Yeah, that's every time I've like, that's comical you'd say that, because the few times I've ever tried to go back and play Galaxy, it's like late at night, I might be a little inebriated, I'm like, I want to play that amazing game, and then I put it in, I'm like, how did I play this? It does not look so good. So, it's a shame, because those games, the whole world wants it, so we'll get it
Yeah.
eventually. Maybe not even this generation though, knowing Nintendo.
Oh my gosh.
You
They
know,
at least have motion controls in the Joy-Con, so the one
Sure.
flicking motion they
Sure.
can do fine. I mean, they don't actually need it anyway, but I liked it, so shut up, people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah, no,
cool.
I just
but-
could see them holding off, because Nintendo is not a company giving you what you want automatically. Now they've gotten
Well, they
better
also
about it
don't really
lately.
remake Mario games. Like they did 64 on
Yeah.
the DS, which
They
doesn't
that's true,
seem
they
like
did.
it would have. I didn't play it, but
come
it
on,
doesn't
wait,
seem like it
we
could.
gotta rewind the statement. You gotta back that up. What about like the collection for
on
Super
the Super Nintendo, yeah.
Say, like
Okay,
they've been doing it for the
Very
They've been
rarely
doing it.
do they do it, though.
They just remade the RPG Paper Mario game or whatever. Like I forget which one it is. The one that you guys Sticker Star or whatever. I'm saying the wrong one, but the one you guys, not a platformer Mario, but still a Mario. You know, like there's no provision that they
Mario
don't.
and Luigi,
video
yeah.
games.
But I mean, like the regular main Mario platformers, like
I disagree. I think
I wouldn't.
it's.
I'm not saying they wouldn't do it. I'm just saying like it's not like they've remade them like the Zelda games. They've remade.
I disagree. I just
those games.
standing on the Super
Really?
Nintendo that had four Mario games on one cartridge that were remade.
I mean,
Like, and they're the originals.
yeah.
Like, how much more do you need to like see that? I mean, like Zelda, like took longer almost. You could argue for them to do remakes because it wasn't. Is Ocarina the first remake?
I don't know.
I think it is off the top of my head. I think Ocarina
There's
is the first Zelda
probably-
remake.
I know some of the games got like color updates. Like
Okay.
Link's Awakening got a DX version later, which isn't a
If you
remake.
count
It's
that
just
right.
like
Yeah,
here now it's in
Yeah.
color sort of thing. But
yeah. It's
I
hard
don't
to
know. I'd
say.
have to actually look back.
That's like splitting hairs there.
Right.
I hear you. Like I'm not sure. Like I'm not
okay,
sure.
put
if
it
that
this way:
counts.
they
That's-
haven't remade, besides 64, they haven't remade any of the other 3D ones. Which I guess there haven't been enough for them
There
to
haven't
remake
been
it. Yeah,
Well, there's
64,
Sunshine.
Sunshine, Galaxy, Galaxy 2, 3D World.
This is funny conversation. So
Whatever, just
anyhow.
give it to me. That's all
Yeah.
I want. I don't care if I'm wrong if that means I get what I want. Anyway, I'll move on to the next game. This one will be quick. Pikmin 4. Just released it already.
Oh.
I checked the last time they made a statement. Miyamoto said it's very close to completion 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Show it already.
Well,
Release it this
were
year.
they talking about the Pikmin 3DS game?
No, they weren't.
the wording. He never said 4. He said
I-
the next Pikmin game.
No, let me check it up.
I'm pretty sure he never
I
said
think-
4.
I forget. There was some people talking about that, and I think there was like a follow-up or something.
I can't say, but I've always interpreted that as we misunderstood when they said that, because if I recall,
we can confirm Pikmin 4 is in development. That's all we can confirm at the present.
Okay, so he said 4. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Because I remember them saying like the next Pikmin game is almost done, and that I always took to be like the game we got, the 3DS game. You know, that it's like, we
Yeah.
never said 4. You know, like we got away with that on you. See
Yeah.
that? You know?
Yeah,
But,
and I think there was some like confusion there, but as far as I'm aware, like I don't think that would be the game they'd be talking about.
Sure. Good stuff. So
But,
good stuff. Yeah,
there's
I'd be
actually,
down.
and I actually have one more. This is why it took a bit longer to get to the podcast, because I was writing this crazy thing. So, Retro's game. Everyone wants it. Everyone expects it to be shown at some point. It's been like 3 or 4 years since their last game. They take plenty of long time to make it. A lot of people are saying or expecting a new IP. That is possible, and there have been some people kind of hinting towards that. But I'm going to play the somewhat safer route and be like, you know what? The thing people want, we're probably not going to get, because everything people usually want is, I wouldn't say the opposite, but when people are like, oh man, I want this, it's like, no, with Nintendo, you don't necessarily get that. So I'm going to play the safer bet and say they're actually going to develop a game for a series that already exists. And I have 2 different options. You're going to laugh at me. One of them is F-Zero.
I love
that sounds
F-Zero. I'd
weird.
play it.
So here's my pitch. It'll have small hubs that you can walk around in. It's not going to be a world. Maybe like different planets or something that you have like a little area to walk around in and whatever. But like obviously the main focus is driving your cars. Maybe there's customizability. I don't know. And the funny thing about F-Zero is, Miyamoto said, we're not really going to do one unless we find some weird, crazy thing to jam into it. F-Zero is one of the few Nintendo series, I've realized, where Nintendo outsources it more than they actually make it in-house. Like, at least half of the games, there's only like a handful of F-Zero games, but most of them are made by other studios, not actually Nintendo. So this is one they could take, no problem. And I'll get into the reasons after. And then the other one is Golden Sun. And the developer that makes Golden Sun, Camelot, like still exists, of course, but they've been mostly making Mario sports games for like the last decade. And, they're coming out with Aces in whatever time. So I don't really think they're going to do that too much. And because it's a lesser known franchise, Retro can take it and kind of like do whatever the heck they want with it, because it's not like they're tarnishing, this sacred brand. It's like, okay, this Game Explained went over some series, and it's like, this game hasn't been around for like 8 years, and the last one wasn't taken too well. So they can pretty much do what they want, and just the fact that they're making a new one will appeal to an amount of people at the very least. So the reason I chose both of these franchises is these are both franchises where there isn't a team dedicated to making them. So like HAL Laboratory, makes a bunch of Kirby games, Intelligent Systems makes Paper Mario and Fire Emblem, etc., etc. There's no real developer that's like, we're the F-Zero team or we're the Golden Sun team sort of thing. Like, they're basically gone. So this gives Retro the opportunity to take either of those and do whatever the heck they want with them, because no one's doing anything with them. And it's actually similar to how Donkey Kong no longer had a team after Rareware left for Microsoft. So they were able to take it and do what they want with it. And even Metroid, because the original team around the time of Prime and Prime 2 basically were reassigned to different teams and have been like spread out across different, development teams. So that team isn't really like, those developers aren't really together anymore. They're kind of spread out.
Right.
So there's no like, oh, this is the Metroid team. It's like, no, they're kind of gone, which is why Metroid Prime 4 is basically a random hodgepodge of whoever's, because they don't have that.
Right.
So that's why I think these two are I would say they're the two that are the most available for them to grab, because anything, I don't want to say lesser, but anything that's lesser known than these already is not, I don't think they would bother with, either them or Nintendo. But they still have a name.
That's a big claim. That's a big claim
It
for
is, but
companies versus Nintendo. But I hear you.
But I mean, like, I don't really see someone going back to make Ice Climber. It had literally one game, right? So,
right,
like,
and
these have like
even
at least
I admit that it's not a very good game. Like, so
like these are at least a series where it's like, oh, there's a new one we haven't seen in X amount of years. So like it would grab people's attention versus like, hey, there's a new Ice Climber, and then someone's like, what the hell is Ice Climber?
Right. Yeah.
But-
No, I agree. I don't know anything about Golden Sun. I know it's RPG.
Mhm.
And it's so off the radar. It's not just because I'm not an RPG player much. It's so off the radar that's hard for me to believe. But I mean, you don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Nintendo's threw so much effort into Fire Emblem at the expense of everything else. I'd see Advance Wars. Well, that's a different kind of game. Like,
I
I'm
forgot about
confused,
Advance Wars.
like everybody's always calling for Advance Wars to come back. I've never played it. I've almost played it a few times. It looks more interesting to me than Fire Emblem.
Mhm.
But maybe someday I'll just pick up a copy and just mess around with it for fun. Even though I know that tactical art, like games like that, aren't really my favorite thing. But like Golden Sun, I know so little about it. It's hard for me to weigh in to say whether that's like possible or outlandish.
Sure.
I've heard of it. That's it. F-Zero, the comments, from them have been that like, they don't quite know what to do with the game. And Miyamoto has the quote where he's like, if we had a new controller that would add something to the game, which is like the hardware comment, kind of like what they did with Star Fox for a lot of people not working out for Star Fox Zero. I enjoyed it, but I know I'm in a small minority for thinking it was an interesting game. It was also on a failed system, so I don't think it ever got like the exposure, but we can leave that debate for another day. But like, it's almost like Miyamoto. This is where Mike comes in with his Miyamoto hate, like where it's like, oh, Miyamoto ruins things. And like, I don't ever agree. And for the record, now that we're hitting the 90-minute mark of this podcast, anyone who's still listening, Mike says a lot of things about hating on Miyamoto. And I just enjoy it because it's Mike. I always find it like, you're just trying to be a heretic because that's insane. He's one of the greatest designers ever. This is one of the few cases where I like worry because I'm like, your innovation sometimes gets in the way of like your good sense, like with Wii Music or something like that. And it's like, I'm the guy who always wants innovation. I'm the guy who's going to be there the morning GameStop opens to pick up my Labo kit. Like, I couldn't be more excited, but there are times when it goes off the rails. I think it's fair to agree that like maybe, Star Fox Zero ended up not being the greatest idea. They admitted it was struggling in development, so it's not like they didn't know it. And like, so I could see them being gun shy about doing F-Zero because like they've said they don't quite know what to do with it. And if Miyamoto's only idea is like, oh, a new controller, but he doesn't even know what that is, then it's like,
well, I think
do they do a cash-in? Because F-Zero is not a very deep game. Like, it's not a very deep game. I mean, fast racing
it doesn't
RMX
necessarily have to be either.
But Nintendo wants their games to be deep experiences. They hardly ever make games that are like small experiences.
Well, I mean, they also what's another comparison? Like Kirby isn't a deep game either.
But they're really
like
they're dynamic games. they've got a lot going on. Even if it's not a good Kirby game, there's a lot going on in it. And F-Zero is so much just a racing game. You know,
I don't know. I think
there's
they can
nothing
put out
that's-
like a decent. They put out plenty of okay games as well. I think it was like 2016 or whatever for the Wii U was like the year of okay to kind of games, and even the 3DS like the Pikmin game wasn't that great apparently, and like some other stuff they put out. So I mean, it's not that not literally every game has to be like.
I mean, the Pikmin game, like
but...
you could argue, is like aimed at kids. You know, like I mean, but I hear you. Sure. I mean, I suppose, but I mean, if they're going to bring back a flagship series, you know,
I guess
that's where.
But I mean, retro could be like do something neat. I'm sure.
I think they just have to figure out what they want to do with it. We're going in circles here because I think.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead,
my other point is that like Miyamoto doesn't actually have it. Well, okay, so he did have a hand in some of the F-Zero games. Crap. I don't know if he'd be in charge of saying.
Listen.
So anyway, the point is that most of these F-Zero games aren't even made by Nintendo anyway. So I think his comment doesn't necessarily matter.
Hard to say. He is the executive. He is the big honcho. It's hard to say like his comments don't matter. But yeah, if they want to bring it back, they'll bring it back.
I mean, like, put it this way. I think he could. The way I see it is, people are saying we want an F-Zero, and Miyamoto's thinking, well, maybe I would go get a team to do it, or maybe I would make a team to do it, but I don't really have an idea. But if someone else like pitched an idea, then maybe they would do it, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's possible. It's quite possible. I wouldn't doubt it. It's quite possible. I don't think we've seen the last of F-Zero. So if we make that our opening debate point, you know, and reverse engineer the debate, then I'm like, yeah, it's possible. You know, That's it. It's not gone forever. May I submit that if we get an F-Zero game, though, we need to see more of Captain Falcon's nipples, because we don't see enough of them in Smash. We see it, you know, we get glimpses of his alien nipple through his like tight bodysuit, but like with the whole controversy recently over Mario has nipples, it turns out. Well, we've known
people
for a long
love
time.
Nipples. Give
nipples. You know, we've known his man nips are very prominent thanks to Smash for a long time.
That should be his final Smash. They just stick out and poke people in the eye.
Twister. Yeah, that's all I got to say. I mean, you know, we don't get enough of the characters in F-Zero. You know, like maybe they should go the Star Fox Adventures route and have them get out of the cars and walk around and talk a lot. That would be great, right? It'd be cool. Like if we could do that. No, wait, that's a bad idea. So I don't know what you think. Yeah, I don't know what you do. Yeah, make it an RPG element.
No,
you know, like,
not an RPG, but just like you were saying, you know, they want more. They want to add depth or whatever. It's like, okay, you can like have them walk around in a small space and like talk or something. Like I'm sure they would add something, but
I don't know. I think you go the direction
something
of
else besides
you know,
just racing. But anyway, part of my point for choosing those were like I'm sure. Well, if people are listening, people might think like, oh man, those franchises are, you know, too low for retro. They're better than that. But Metroid and Donkey Kong also weren't like heavy hitters. They weren't like Mario or Zelda or Pokemon. Like they were on the mid-tier level franchises for Nintendo. The early ones obviously sold really well, but I mean they're also not like tentpole franchises, you know, that really make a difference.
In some ways, I understand what you're saying. In some ways, yes, you're right. You know, it's hard for me to admit that, but in some ways, yes.
But also the other thing is that, well, they both sort of bring something that Nintendo doesn't have. I mean, technically, Nintendo does have racing games with Mario Kart, although this would be, you know, faster and fill a different niche. But, oh man, they do have RPGs. Well, the difference with Golden Sun is Fire Emblem is a tactical one where it's like you're in a space and you have to move on a grid sort of thing. So there is a difference there. Whereas Golden Sun is traditional where it's like you're lined up and you select your opponent and attack like head on.
Mhm.
So that's, I guess they do have that on the handhelds with Mario and Luigi, but it also could be something different because they have, you know, magic and stuff.
Golden Sun has such a low profile that like makes it harder for me to think it's a reality.
I think
You know,
that
I don't
kind
want
of
to watch
makes
your
it
dreams.
more likely, just because it's
In a
like,
way.
oh man, people haven't seen this in a while, and you can't really do anything bad with it because it's been
Mhm.
gone so long. People will just be like happy to see it. So it's like you can open the doors for whatever you want with that,
Right.
and it'll
Right. Yeah, there's potential.
make a splash. But
Yeah, it's hard for me to say. I
I'm not saying it's incredibly likely. I'm just like spitballing ideas like,
Wish list.
hey, you know what? Maybe if they don't make a new IP, what franchise could they like possibly legitimately take a stab at? Because Nintendo has too many, and they're not going to get Mario or Zelda or all the big ones because they all like I said, they already have teams working on those. So why would Retro be working on those as well? Like it wouldn't make sense.
Right.
But,
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable pitch. I think it's hard to say. I think I'm a cynic, so like I always kind of think like just getting your hopes up is a bad idea, and whatever
Oh,
Retro's
yeah, I'm not
doing,
betting that it's
probably
happening,
just
but
it's probably just
I'm-
on Country returns.
No.
You know, it's like
I'm half
you
putting
know?
it out in case one of these comes to fruition at
Yeah.
E3, and then I can just point everyone and be like, "See, I called it.
Yeah,
You're all
yeah.
wrong. Give me money for no reason."
Oh, I had a funny idea for our wish list for the next year. I'm a big fan of Norm Macdonald's humor,
Mhm.
and he always has a great delivery sense for like delivering a joke. If you're familiar with perhaps when he was on SNL and he would do the news on Saturday Night Live, but he always like delivers in a really dry voice. And if you ask me on like a panel question of like what would I like from Nintendo in the coming year, I'd be like, I want less games, because there's too many games for me to play right now. I'd want to deliver to that Norm Macdonald style, like stop it, like you're hurting me, like I can't keep up. This is
Yeah.
absurd. Like just the number of games in your console, the number of stuff on my wish list. The one thing I want is more time or less games. Like
Yeah.
that's honestly like where it's at these days. You know, it's hard to imagine even wanting stuff was where I started from when I was thinking about this question earlier, because I was like, well, what I would really like would be able to play, you know, the new Mario game and the Skyrim port and like
Oh gosh, don't even
Steam
bother
World
with
Dig
Skyrim.
2. No way. I want to too. It looks awesome. I can't wait. Like it looks super fun. Like you know,
You'll never play a
wanna
game
play
again.
Steam World Dig 2.
Between that
Why
and
is that?
Zelda. So if you play Skyrim,
Yeah.
you'll never play a game again between that and Zelda. Jeez.
Well, you know me. It's been a year now. I've been playing Zelda. Literally, I realized a year as of the anniversary, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. Still, I have no problem with that. You know, it's and teaser for that interview one last time before we wrap up. Me and Mr. Scott Setz from Membrane game get into it about that, and he's playing the game the exact same way I am. And when I use the analogy of a fine wine, he like crowed with joy. That was like, oh, me too. That's exactly how I think of it. Like I want to sip it, not gulp it. You know.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep. I was like, that's how it is. Like I every few weeks I get back into it, and just you see me blow up on Twitter now that I'm using Twitter. I'll all of a sudden post like 2 or 3 screenshots, which for me is like vomiting on Twitter. You know, I'm like three posts, and I'm like saying like this is one of the greatest games I've ever played, and it just hits me all over again. And that's why I love stretching it out, because I get that feeling again and again where I'm like, I can't believe how cool this is. You know, just like, you know. So anyway, I've ranted about that quite enough, I'm sure. So anyhow, yeah, for send me more time. If one of the Labo kits would be like a time machine, so I can keep warping back and duplicating myself into like a Rick and Morty type episode where there's just more of me like playing more Switches in my living room and fighting over the controllers with myself. And then I'm like, wait, this is awesome. Now I have multiplayer built in and it's all me. You know, like it's you know, that's what I'd like.
Yeah, instead of a backlog, we have a wish list now. Like we have
Yeah, and my wish list is less backlog.
Yeah.
It's true. It's so sad. I like the winter is when I get through a lot more games than I do in the summer because I'm so busy. Usually, almost every summer, and this summer will be no different.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so I try. Like, I have so many retro games that I've purchased over the years, relatively cheap ones that I've just picked up at yard sales or at conventions or, you know, on eBay or whatever. That I bet you I have like easily, not exaggeration, 30 to 40 cartridges for like various Nintendo systems I've never played yet. So I'm trying like my best to walk that fine line of not giving them short shrift and like putting them in and playing them for like a few minutes, because that's I never want to be that guy. Like I'm like, even if a game's garbage, I want to give it a couple hours, like to like get to know it. Why is it garbage? I want to speak authoritatively on why it sucks, like at the very least. Like or maybe you discover the game isn't garbage after you play it a while. It just seems like garbage because you don't know what you're doing at first, or because it's kind of poorly designed, and then you figure it out, and you know it's actually fun once you do the work. But even making an effort, where in like the last couple of weeks I've been like on, for me, a tear where I've played like 3 new games in like a couple of weeks, where I like put them in and I'm like, that's a tear for me. I'm like, I'm gonna get to the end of winter and I won't have dented this pile. Like, I'm like, this is just absurd, you know. But I think everybody knows that problem these days. I don't think I'm the only gamer with that problem. It's everywhere. Fuck, I have 3 games in my Switch library that I've never turned on yet, that I bought when they were on sale, like the Steam style type problem, you know, where I like downloaded them and put them in my like in my queue, and I'm just saving them for like a trip, or like when or when I'm between games, like legitimately, because I'm like, well, I'm certainly not between games. Like, in fact, the other day I turned on Snipper Clips again. I'd never played it single player ever, but I realized with all the multiplayer games I have lined up, I'm never going to get back to it with my close friends. Like every time we hang out, we're playing something more recent, like Rocket League or Doom or anything, you know, like something more recent, that I really doubt Snipper Clips is going to be on our radar anytime soon. Yeah. So I started playing it. Like, this game is amazing. Like, this game is damn amazing. Like, how great it is. Even as a single player experience, it's super, super fun and cleverly designed and hilarious and fun and pure Nintendo. Like, I'd give it my underrated game of the Switch year. Like, when I was talking to you about that earlier, that would be my pick. Like, that Snipper Clips is like, it's not even underrated, but it's buried like at this point, you know. And I'm like, anyone who's not played Snipper Clips and is still listening to an hour and a half of this podcast and has heard of it, it's an amazingly cool, super pure Nintendo experience made by Nintendo, published by Nintendo. I think they designed and developed.
I think they helped out with it. They at least published it. I know I know it was like some other team making it, and they like came in. They're like, "Hey, that'd be cool."
It feels utterly.
They did help with it. I remember because it was also under a different name before.
Okay.
I
And then
forget the actual name.
The tea table and was like, "No, that name is no good. It's Clips, and it needs motion controls." And they were like, "Fine," and they gave it to him, and he was right that time. But yeah, it's so much fun. I'm like, I can't even wait to play more of it now that I'm talking about it out loud. I'm like, oh, it's super fun. Like, it's just the funniest, silly game with really, really hard puzzles sometimes, like, that are balanced well for like a big audience. Like, some puzzles are really, really challenging that you're not going to be able to do in 5 minutes. And then other ones, like, you're an adult and you're going to knock it right out, but you're still going to have fun doing it. Like, probably the same thing, to be fair, that people that enjoy Kirby games, people, I say with quotes as the internet, like, people that enjoy Kirby games, like, because kidding, but you know, because it's like, it's rewarding even though it's easy-ish. And I can relate to that when I play something more like Snipper Clips than Kirby, where it's like, it's too similar to like a wannabe Mario Brothers to me, or something where I'm like, oh, it's like a platformer, but I can fly. This sucks. Like, this is way too easy. Like, you know, like, but you know, that's to each their own, you know. But yeah, anyway, I don't know where I was going. That was Snipper Clips, my underrated game of the year. Like, reminding people to get back into it if you didn't finish it. And I saw there's DLC for it, and I forgot all about that I hope to get to sometime. So yeah. What else, Matt? Did you have anything else on your wish list for this year?
No, I'm going to leave it there because we're already going on as it is. I didn't really have many big things for the other stuff. It was basically that crazy idea that I wanted to go through.
Yeah.
I was like looking at
Sun,
Wikipedia articles and like, oh, but when is there a Metroid team? What happened to them? And it's like, they split off. It was like in 96, before even Fusion and Zero Mission, which were around Metroid Prime 1 and 2, they already went to like a different studio, and then just like within the last 3 years or something, they merged with EAD. So basically all those people are just working on since like '96, they've been mostly working on like WarioWare, Rhythm Heaven, and then now just like the big EAD games. So like
It's kind of funny
they're
'cause
just merged into everything else now. Like
it's kind of
that
funny
doesn't
because
exist.
in video games, it just hit me, a comparison I'd never made before in my mind. In video games, the Firefly effect is super common, and what I mean by that is like the series Firefly. Like the reason it could never happen again is because everybody's scattered in different directions, and Joss Whedon said it's over. It's like it's over, not going back to that. Everyone's much older. It's a different problem. It's not going to look right. But like it's over. The ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Firefly is over. And it's like, but video games have the same problem all the time. That it's like that team doesn't exist anymore. It's the Futurama problem that they faced. Why Futurama reboot was so difficult to imagine happening at first. That it was like, but we broke up.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone. Like it's Futurama's over. It's canned. My heart broke when it happened, for instance, in video games, when Sakurai said, they disbanded the studio instantly. That made Kid Icarus Uprising, because I loved that game. And I was like, I want more of this. I want more of the Kid Icarus universe to keep going, even if you just change it up. And he was like, no, that studio pretty much was dissolved as soon as that game was finished. Like that was a like for foreseeable future, a one-time thing, so to speak,
Yeah,
but
it's unfortunate. I think it was just one of those contract things where it's like we'll grab people from other things and put it under one roof rather than have because I think with Brawl they had like a bunch of different developers, like, oh, the people working on Xenoblade can give us help, and these other teams. So I think that's probably why Kid Icarus like dissolved. It was just like, rather than get people from a bunch of studios, let's just shove them in one so it's easier to work and then get rid of. But I also hate that too, because Sakurai makes good games, and he needs to be able to be allowed to make games that aren't Smash Brothers, even though I like him, because
he's a master. He's an utter master, and it's like, it's a shame that his career, it's a shame he's mortal. Let's start there.
Yeah.
It's a shame he's mortal and has like limits to what he can do. It's the Bill Murray problem. I've always joked that I'm like, if you could have one famous star that you could give anti-aging permanent youth to, who would it be? Would it be Bill Murray? Would it be Robert De Niro? Like, who would it be? Who would be your actor or actress that you'd pick that would be like, I want you to be permanently young and making amazing films forever. I want to see Robert De Niro doing more gangster flicks and more mafia flicks for the rest of my life. That the Bill Murray thing, like barring like any Garfield films, or anything like that. Like more Bill Murray, please, all the time, forever. Don't get old. Be cool. Be funny, like always. And Sakurai's in that box that it's like, yeah, you spend 5, 6, 7 years of your life making one game to the exclusion of everything else cool you could be doing. Yeah. How many of these can you realistically do in your life? Like, like really, like how many of these can we expect you to do? And that thing with Kid Icarus is, again, like you said, like, it's like, he needs to be allowed to do that. He's clearly a genius. Kid Icarus Uprising, for its control problems that some people didn't like, was an amazing game, and it was super funny and just clever and unique, and an incredibly good reboot. Like, I'd have to say, I would struggle to personally think of a reboot that I liked more. You'd have to go to like something truly epic, like Metroid Prime or something, for me personally, like off the top of my head, where I'm like, yeah, bringing something back that was pretty gone, and then kicking it into high gear with that, and then to do it in such a way where it's only a one-off, where it's like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then it's gone again, like we're going to bury Kid Icarus again in
for
the
another
vault.
20 years.
Yeah, back in the vault. You go back in the vault. We're going to expand.
You got your
universe.
sunlight. Get back in the cage.
Yeah, and I mean, and not only that,
we're
going to make the game.
Wings.
Yeah, nicely done. Like, yeah, we not only that, like, we're going to make the game 10 times bigger than it ever was before, just like Metroid kind of did. I mean, Metroid was on its way to getting bigger with Super Metroid. And expanding its so-called universe. But Kid Icarus, like, I've played the first two, the Game Boy and the NES. I mean, I adore the NES one, for the record. It's just tops for me. It was on my list of top 30 for our tournament here, knowing it would get its ass kicked the second I put it in. So I didn't, but not that it would have helped. But yeah, like, Kid Icarus, like, has very little story in the first two. I mean, it is as simple as you're an angel and you're fighting Medusa to save Palutena.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, that's the story, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
it's sad because
that's-
Uprising could have like launched something. It's like, wow, there's like,
yeah,
even if Kid Icarus didn't launch beside Metroid and get drowned by Metroid, I don't think it would have gotten like, I don't think it would have been that much more popular, to be honest.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's not as cool as a sci-fi theme. It's not. I mean,
No.
Metroid is a straight up Aliens ripoff at its
Yeah.
core, but at the same time, it's like it's just a cooler setting. I mean, you know, who cares about Grecian goddesses and stuff like that? Really, when you're a kid, you're like, yeah, this is stuff I have to study in like history class. Like, this sucks, you know. Like, and in the other game, I get to fight crazy brains that fly around, you
Yeah.
know, like and shoot missiles. Like, it's not much of a competition. Although, for those that haven't ever played the original Icarus, which by now you should have, since it was on the 3D classics for 3DS. If I wasn't such a retro purist, I'd say it's the best way to play the game, because they fixed some things, you might almost say, and they made better music, the graphics. They changed the graphics in a very subtle way that make it look better. So the 3DS, if you haven't played it, get your 3DS out and play Kid Icarus in the 3D classics mode. But the game is very charming, and that's why it is like kind of the like it's the fourth pillar of the original big games that came out for NES, like back when we were kids. That like you'd almost argue it was the hipster NES game when we were kids, if such a word had existed. That it'd be like, oh, you like Metroid, but have you played Kid Icarus? You know, you said to your friends, you know, and it's like, you know, and a lot of people hadn't. And it did have charm, and a lot of people think of it as a very hard game, alongside Metroid as being a very hard game, and they both are, but they're nowhere near as hard as you've heard. That's what I'd say. I'm like, nah, you know, you put your time into it, you learn it. It's a platforming game, and it's got the Nintendo polish that like you can get good at it. You know, just like Mario Brothers is hard if you've never played Mario Brothers 1,000 times. You know, it's Super Mario Brothers, that is. You know, so I could go on. One of my favorite topics, Kid Icarus.
All right, so we'll end it there. Wherever you're listening. Oh, nope, I went too far ahead. You can find me at the Mango Viking on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Source Gaming. And where can people find you?
I am doing a soft rollout of my YouTube channel. I've got a lot of stuff in the queue of varying quality that I haven't like put up yet. So I'd recommend people come over, if you're listening at the almost 2-hour mark of this podcast, come on over to my YouTube channel at Unoclay Gaming. You probably just Google for that. I've tried to like tag it appropriately so it shows up. So that's Unoclay Gaming on YouTube, where I have that interview we were talking about with the developer of Switch. And I'm going to have more videos, just a variety of stuff I'm sort of planning right now. No real theme, but a lot of retro stuff, heavily retro, and a lot of like commentary maybe for now, if I get the time to get everything out there that I'm thinking about. And Unoclay_Switch on Twitter as well.
Cool. So wherever listening, you can find us at Just Another Castle on basically every platform on the internet. Hit us up with your questions, or if you're interested in being a guest, at Just Another Castle, or me at the Mango Viking. So until next time, leave luck to the heavens and leave gaming to Nintendo.